welcome to another live. We will be limited for the first up to 30 minutes. We'll be limited to 15 people, and then after 15, after the time limit that they give us, TikTok, then we'll be limited to 30 people because I tell the truth and TikTok doesn't like it. So I've just started this live. If anyone's interested, I do notice that people come in and they see that there's only one or two people and think, "Oh, let's run." But I've only just started the live, so I'm not going to call you out or anything if you've just joined. Hello to those people that is joining. I am the guy that. How do I say this without sounding big-headed? I'm the guy that does those amazing videos. I'm the foremost expert on the Anunnaki, solved many things, and just generally I'm an all-round either nice guy or just an egotistical maniac, or both. Insert your own things, what you want to call me. Jane's wrote, "Hi God." Well, Jane's decided to call me God, and she's right. Yes, it says so on my birth certificate. Thank you, Elise. How are you, Jane? I hope you're fine, and I hope Goddess Jane is fine as well. Hope you have a nice weekend. Just scrolling down. Lisa's wrote, "Hi, Outer History," and hi everyone. Hi, Elise. Nice of you to join as well. Hope you're having a great weekend. Anyone seen the news these days? It's horrible, isn't it? All the bloody things. I've just literally just finished doing the 3i Atlas video. Took a while. There's a lot they don't really tell you, and because I like to look elsewhere, I even looked at other countries and what they said. And a lot of the country, I'm spoiling it here for you guys because the video comes out in about 4 days, but there's researchers in other countries that have said they think it's sort of flat shaped, whereas NASA says it's circular, like a ball. So there's one difference straight away, which then you start thinking, well, hang on a minute, NASA never a straight answer, never tells you what's really going on. So you got to wonder, is NASA lying? And so that's the sort of angles I cover in my documentary on 3i Atlas. I don't just look at it as what NASA says because I don't trust NASA. So it's an interesting video. Very, very heavy on the techno babble, unfortunately, talking about the compositions that that it supposedly is made of, and the gas coming out and the speed of it. And I've even created, fair enough, using AI because it was a lot quicker, created animations, not video animations, but actual graphic animations using HTML to show the speed difference, for example, between the Awuma and the 3i Atlas. And I also done another animation showing how it was invisible because it was behind the sun. But then there's a whole category behind that, because technically the Catalina Observatory should have seen it prior to it being where they finally saw it, because that telescope was actually looking in that direction for a very, very long period of time. So suddenly they see it. And it when you dig down and do the math, 3i Atlas properly, if you do the math properly, it would have took about 7.7 months to come from the outside of our solar system. That means the Catalina telescope had 7.7 months to try and pick it up, or accidentally pick it up, and notice it. But wait for it. But we're told it was only like 4 days that it was behind the sun. What was it? 4 days that it would have come into our solar system. A load of crap, in other words, because they don't want us to know that it suddenly appeared and shouldn't really have suddenly appeared. And they seem to say that it comes from the Oort cloud, which is the further out. You got the Kuiper belt. So I don't know if you guys know much about the solar system, but you've got, let's go up to so you've got the 3 planets inside the firmament, inside the asteroid belt. Then you've got the remaining planets that go out to Jupiter. Then you've got the Kuiper belt, and then you've got the Oort cloud, which is even further. And these are remnants, possibly remnants of, fouled planets. I mean, you could argue that a planet is an accident as opposed to it being a fouled planet. I don't like the idea that when people say, the Kuiper belt and the Oort cloud were fouled planets, because maybe planets are the miracle as opposed to the rest of it, because obviously clearly there's a huge amount of rock in the Oort cloud, which is where they seem to think that this rock, that they call it, has come in from, at least from there, which is weird because they also say it's not from our solar system, but yet the Oort cloud is actually within our solar system. So what are they trying to say? And I'm not going to spoil it for you guys because TikTok limits me to 15 people, which is what we've got right now, pretty much. And the video is due to drop in 3 or 4 days. So just go to my website and you should be able to find it. Actually, that reminds me, I better make sure that it's definitely listed. But it's on Patreon, so if you can't find it, and it's free on the Patreon, just as long as you can sign up, which costs nothing, it's going to drop and you'll be able to watch it. And speaking of that, I've also put the Lucifer video up, so if anyone's interested in seeing the Lucifer video with evidence, feel free to go to my Patreon page. Just all you have to do is sign up. The reason why I've done that is because I've actually got about 3,000 people that have not registered or not subscribed to my videos. Not that I'm not doing this for money, but the point is, they're obviously interested enough to have signed up, but they're not paying the £2. Now I know it sounds like I'm trying to ask for money, and I hate this. It's not how I am, but for the £2, they've not signed up to listen to audiobooks, watch the hundreds of documentaries that's on Patreon. So I thought, well, I'll put the Lucifer video out because it will hopefully show people, oh my God, this guy's pretty darn good, and then think, well, I'll just pay £2 and cancel and watch as much as I can within a month. But anyway, so hi Elise, hope you're well. Sorry, somehow I went off on a tangent there, didn't I? I apologize. Darwin's wrote, yay, algebra history. Oh, thank you, Darwin. Please don't tell me you're sitting there waiting for me. Is he on yet? Is he? Speaking of the lovely Darwin, the Starfleet Academy has come out. Hi, Jazz. Thank you, Jazz. Starfleet Academy has come out now. Yeah, it's a hard pass for me. I think everyone should just go back and watch the original and Next Gen and be done with it, I think. Tuckers wrote, is there any mention of Sisyphus, I can't pronounce the name properly, Roman king in any tablets? If there was, I can't say that I've stored that in my mind. There's a lot of names in tablets that I've never heard of before, and it sort of goes in one ear and out the other type thing, because unless it's something that's relevant, like the priest of Marduk, the amount of times I've done these live chats and said, oh, the priest of Marduk, and I can't remember his bloody name. I now know it because I had to go back and remember it. So to remember people that I've not even come across properly and store that. So what I apologize, all I'm saying is there may be, I can't say no, but I would have needed a reason to have remembered him. So I can't say that yes or no on that. I'm sorry. I know you probably would have liked an answer, but I mean, you could probably see the thing with AI. I spent an hour and a half yesterday arguing with it. Literally, honestly, Kimi, Kimi. Do you know what it said to me at the end of it? Well, not at the end, as we was arguing. Literally arguing with an AI, and not just it telling me. It even turned around and said, "Right, you show me evidence where it says the Abzu is Africa, because it's gone by mainstream, which they say, oh, Abzu is deep water. So straight away I pull out, oh, well, here's a tablet that says they planted a cedar tree in the Abzu. And then I wrote LOL, so you expect that to be in the bottom of the ocean, do you? And I pulled out all these other ones, and it was literally an arguing. I kid you not, arguing, where I'm saying, that's 1 point to me, that's 2 points to me, that's 3 points to me. And then it come back and said, no, that's 2 points to you, and here's one back for me because you got this wrong. Hell no. No. Didn't get it wrong. It's talking about, where it's, oh man, sorry, I you can tell I got really annoyed. An hour and a half. And I should have been working, but I get so angry. And it keeps bringing up Zachariah Sitchin. I said, no, don't be stupid. Stop bringing up Zachariah Sitchin. You've got your own freaking research. You go and find it yourself. And then it comes back and said, well, clay, because we was talking about Anunnaki creating us, clay is metaphorical. And I said, no. I said, go and look at the other words that it can be. And it come back and said, yeah, actually, it could mean organic material, life. So there you go. Oh, man. That Kimmy's a little bugger, I tell you. Don't use Kimmy, Kimi. Do not use that. It'll lie to you, I tell you, and they do. Anyway, so yes, I was going to say use AI to find out whether or not that's in tablets, but they avoid the amount of times I've asked just to not because I'm researching using it, but if I just can't remember where I saw something in a tablet, I write down what I remember, hoping it will find the thing, and it brings out all sorts of things, and I'm like, well, hang on a minute, you forgot this and you forgot that, and it's yeah, you're right. Do not trust AI when it comes to biasy stuff. I'm actually going to download. There's ways of downloading uncensored AI chatbots, because I just need some, it to just tell me where I'm trying to find something if I can't remember. Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing again. Alfreda's wrote, hello, Altruisty, hello, mods. Everyone in the chat, Happy New Year to you all, even Kerry. Alfredo, you've let me down. I was waiting to read sorry why you're late, but you didn't. And I hope you and Kerry are okay. Scrolling down. This is live. I read every single question out. We are limited to 15 at the moment, even though it says 22 people. We will be, those people will get booted off, and it will just go back down to 15. We've got another 10 minutes before we can get up to 30, give or take. Then 30 is the limit after that. Alfredo wrote, sorry I'm late. Oh, you did do it. I apologise, Alfredo. I was preparing for the arrival of the Anunnaki based on numerous TikToks. Yeah, I know. I love the way you point out one of my videos or something where I've pointed out where they're wrong, and then you use that in your excuse. I like it. So well done. Yes, the Anunnaki are not returning. They're already here. Oh man. Real Silver's put thumbs up. Hi, Real Silver. Scrolling down. Just scrolling down. Jazz has wrote, hi, Altrice. I hope you're well. Good to see you live. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've been a little bit busy this week. I've finished my book, my first book called Solved. If you're a Patreon user, don't buy it, because it's got a lot. Well, all the videos. It's basically the videos that I've done that's on Patreon that are the solved ones. I've just converted it into a book. So there's, again, the Patreon for £2 is if you're interested in that kind of stuff, is the place to be, as opposed to paying. And the cheapest I can do it is $9.99 on Amazon. It won't let me go cheaper than that on certain countries. So the cheapest I have to do it is $9.99. So for £2 you can watch the documentaries as opposed to reading the book. But so that's what the cryptic videos are, where it keeps saying solved, coming soon. Is queuing up for people to go, oh, what's that, and then there'll be a video that says, hey, a new book's out. So the book, the paperback's just been released today, but I'm not. You're the first people to know. But again, if you're a patron, usually you got it all anyway. So all good stuff there. Scrolling down, people chatting to each other. Kev has wrote, good day, how true history of mods. My quiet Saturday night has just improved. Oh God, I feel bad. I don't know. Jeez, I mean, if I'm your entertainment for Saturday night, Christ, the TV must be really rubbish nowadays. I remember watching. You guys must have. I don't know what country. I'm guessing Australia. But back in the day when we was younger, Saturday nights, you actually look forward to, whether it was A Team or Royal Variety comedy shows, all those kind of things. The Trotters, Del Boy, and all those kind of programs. Ain't half hot mum. I'm showing my age now, aren't I? But Wurzel Gummidge, I really showed my age. But yeah, and now I haven't watched normal TV for years. So if I'm your entertainment, then thank you very much. But it's you guys that ask the questions. That's where the entertainment comes from. We've got past the 15. I think that's amazing. We did it early. Kevin's wrote, "Wish your 3-hour list was out already. Can we get a sneak peek from you on what's in it?" Technically, actually, when I just started this live, I went through a whole lot of stuff, which you unfortunately missed. Thank you, whoever's doing the hearts. You don't have to. It doesn't really make much difference because TikTok limits me. But thank you. I appreciate the hearts, though. So yeah, it's a lot of techno babble. Unfortunately, I mean, if you're interested in what the composition is and all this kind of stuff, then it's great. But if if you're going to go, oh my God, this is just too much. The measurements of the object, it's like 3.5 miles long compared to the size of a womma, which is smaller. I went through all of that. You know what I'm like. So there's a lot of technical stuff in there. However, at the end, I do the conclusion, sort of summing up where my thoughts are with it. I can't really tell you because obviously it's on the video, but from everything that I'll give you a little hint. From everything that I have learned, not just with a woman, not just with the Free Atlas, but with everything, including ancient aliens, modern aliens, all that kind of stuff. I'm leaning. I can't say for sure because obviously we don't have evidence, but I'm leaning towards. I don't really want to say it. I'm spoiling it for you guys. All right, you're gonna hear it a little bit here. I'm leaning towards. Thank you, Astral. I'm leaning towards Through Atlas being, wait for it, a rock. So you're all going to say, so it's not a spaceship then, but a hollowed out rock. So years ago, I heard from whistleblowers that have said, and over the years I've heard from others that have said that aliens will hollow out rocks, whether they're asteroids or whether they cut them straight out of a planet or whatever, and then they hollow it out. So it's basically only got one entrance and exit on this craft. So once it's in space, it hasn't got nuts or bolts or anything like that. So it's a genius idea. If you've got the technology to make a spaceship out of solid rock and hollow it out, it's genius. And so that's what. See, the thing was before the Awuma came in to our field of range. Thank you, Astral. Again, thank you. I had heard that there was a cigar shape. Now we've all heard of the cigar. I'm sure you've all heard of the cigar shaped UFOs, but there was supposedly, but those ones are very smooth as opposed to like the Awuma, which would have been a rock. But I heard that years and years ago, way back, I heard that there was a elongated rock or long cigar shaped type rock on the moon that had been crashed there and been there for years and years and years, or centuries, or however long. And so all of that put together with the fact that the Oumuamua changed speed when it shouldn't have. This 3i Atlas is doing all sorts of things that logically shouldn't be doing. And in fact, I even had an argument again with AI today about the gas clouds coming off of it. There's a name for it. I can't even remember it. I've just not finished the video. I can't remember the what was it? Out gas, I think they call it, or something like that. But I had an argument with ChatGPT today because I was talking about I was trying to get to do with Halley's Comet, because Halley's Comet keeps coming round, and we've known about it for 2,000 years, but it may be going around our solar system a lot longer than that. It could be millions of years for all we know. Now, if you take a tennis ball and soak that in water and put it near a sun or a hot object, after a short period of time, that water that's on the tennis ball is going to evaporate. You ain't going to have thousands of years of water coming from that tennis ball every time you put it near a hot surface, such as the sun. So in other words, Halley's Comet shouldn't have ice coming off of it for thousands of years. It shouldn't. It just it defies logic. However, there is water vapor in space. So I was arguing with AI today, saying, well, because it was just saying, oh no, there's, it's got reservoirs. I say, oh, don't fucking get stupid thing, reservoirs. Mental. If the towel's even, 3 times, 10 times as long as the actual object itself, that water's going to run out pretty darn soon, not in millions of years. Anyway, so in my 3i Atlas video, I give the idea out that the comet, or we'll call it a comet for want of a better word, because I don't want to spoil it too much, but would gain the water, same as Halley's Comet. Each time it goes round and comes back, it's collected water again. That's why it continuously has that long tower every time it comes past us. And so the same would go for a spaceship out of rock, because it would basically have, especially depending on what minerals it's got as well in that rock, whatever rock it is. Thank you for whoever's doing the hearts. So I don't want to spoil the video, but you can probably guess where I'm going with this. I don't think it come from outside of our solar system, because of the reason I said earlier on about the 7 months. The Catalina Observatory should have seen it. Absolutely should have seen it. There's no excuse. And although it does go behind the sun, when we're moving around and everything, we're moving around the sun, obviously there's a period where we wouldn't see it. But that's not 7 months. That was like weeks. So we should have seen it. It should have been spotted, because the Catalina, anything that moves, it tracks, which means it probably wasn't moving, or it only just moved. And this has just come. So the 3i Atlas comes actually just. So if you're coming in from outside of our solar system, it was supposedly spotted just before Jupiter. And it went through the asteroid belt twice, bearing in mind. Once when it comes into our solar system, comes in past Jupiter, past towards Mars, and then it went just inside of the perigee of Mars. In other words, it went a little bit nearer. Just, you get what I'm trying to say. It just went past Mars. It's difficult. Obviously, it's not right past Mars, but it went inside between Mars and us, but only just inside Mars. And then it went back out and went back through the asteroid belt again, which is a bit weird, because obviously it's not been hit, not enough to push it off course. Now, if you believe NASA, when it says that there's only the amount of not even a small moon is what they say is the amount of asteroids in the asteroid belt. That's their stance, right? Remember that. Now, they can only quantify objects a mile or bigger. So, in other words, there could be billions of things, in the asteroid belt, rocks, smaller than a mile. A mile's quite big. I mean, a woman wasn't even a mile. It was half of a mile. So, you know, don't trust NASA. So watch the amazing video. It comes out in 4 days. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's quite heavy on the techno side. But if you're interested in that, then it's great. But if you're not, it's skip to the bit where it's my conclusion. I have put the details in the description as well of how many minutes in, if you want to just go straight to that. But if you're interested in all that other stuff, then it's good. Tucker's wrote, only asking, been reading about the myth of Sisyphus. I don't even know how you pronounce that. To be honest with you, I don't know the myth of that. I'll be honest, or if I do, I've completely and utterly forgotten it. So I apologise, but sounds interesting. I can't remember. Yeah, if I have read it, I can't remember it, so I apologise. But yeah, that sounds interesting. If you're looking into it, do tell. Scrolling down. This is live. The Wizards wrote, do you think the fire of Alexandria Library was destroy evidence of the Anunnaki? Well, it's a fair question. Go number one in the class for that. It's a good question. Obviously, there were battles. We know there were battles. We've got tablets telling us there's battles. We've even got other places that have been set on fire. Luckily, the reason why we've got a lot of the tablets from, for example, the Library of Nineveh, which also had, well, actually, Library of Nineveh was would have been the biggest library, and then Alexandra would have had some of the copies that actually kind of stuff. Now they didn't photocopy it, but they had copies that people would rewrite them out and give them to other libraries. So the reason why, for example, the Library of Ashurbanipal in Nineveh is really good, is because the clay tablets, when they're burned, even though they're already kilned to solidify them from soft clay, when they're burned, they actually get harder, which is a bit of luck for us because that's how they can get the information. But over in Alexandria, they wouldn't have had probably so many clay, so it would have been papyrus, leaves, banana leaves, and all these kind of things. So we probably lost a hell of a lot of information there because of that. Now, was that done deliberately? I mean, if you was a ruling, if we just take it from a logical point of view, if you didn't like someone for whatever reason, whether it's a race of people or a clan or whatever it is, and you wanted to take them out, and you found their library where it talks about their gods and this and that, and you would, and you was in the way, you're in the business of destruction, killing people and stuff, you'd probably take that down, I would imagine. You wouldn't just leave it there for other people to look at and go, oh, this is what happened in our past, or whatever, for whatever reason. So from a logical point of view, from my perspective, I would imagine that they would have took it down deliberately. But that if they didn't do it deliberately, as in let's just wipe out any information that pertains to the group that we're killing at the moment, if it's not to do with that, then they could have done it deliberately because of one single thing. So, for example, I haven't looked into who the god or gods were that the people of Alexandria would have worshipped versus the other people that would have attacked it. So I can't say, but it could have just been as simple as they wanted land, but at the same time they realised that their god is a different god, which is a lot of those wars, certainly Middle East and Near East, were fought over because of the gods, not because of anything else. I'm not saying every war, but a lot of them were fought over because of the gods. So I would probably say yes, deliberately. Same as Nineveh was deliberately burned. So yes, I would say it makes sense. So otherwise it wouldn't have probably been destroyed if they weren't doing it deliberately. It wouldn't have been an accident. It's not like they've got nukes that they're firing from a great distance, like missiles from another country flying over and then accidentally hitting the library. These would have been people going there on horseback or however they went and deliberately attacked people and structures. And so, yes, I think that would have been definitely deliberately, in my opinion. So, good question. It's sad, but let's go back to your point about the Anunnaki. Probably not. I don't. I personally, I don't think it would have been to do with the Anunnaki. I think it would have been probably to do with the people that they were taking down. Just my gut feeling. I can't imagine them because whoever's back then depends on whoever's in charge of the people attacking. They would have been Anunnaki themselves, so they would have the people that attacked Alexandra would have had to have known about the Anunnaki in order to know to destroy the tablets. And if they knew about the Anunnaki, then they probably would have thought twice against deliberately smashing up stuff to do with the Anunnaki. So, just a gut feeling, I'd say no, it wasn't probably because of that. That's just my gut feeling. I might be wrong. Snoopy's wrote, is Star Trek Anunnaki's movie still coming? Star Trek Anunnaki. It's not Star Trek, but it is Anunnaki. So there's I can't say who he is because I'm not allowed to at the moment. But there's a guy that's just finished an £11 million movie. He's working on the wrap up of that. So he's got our previous film that we've just finished or fairly recently finished. So I haven't started on the Anunnaki because I kind of want to see where he is with it. So he's got a screener, but he hasn't watched it yet. So we're waiting for him. Now he works for Universal Pictures. And he did say that he knew the synopsis etc. of the previous film, so he said he'll try and if it's good, he'll try and get us distribution somewhere, and that might change how I go about doing the Anunnaki movie. So the script's done for the Anunnaki movie, so I haven't progressed it yet because if this guy can sort out distribution, then it might be an in for me to say to him, look, we've got this other film. Would there be a retainer or pre-sales, all that kind of stuff? Not that they do that much these days now, especially with the streaming services. But so it will go ahead, but I just want to see because otherwise it's a different route to take. So it'd be nice just to see whether or not just by holding on until this guy's watched it and then decides what to do, then we'll know. But my producer's waiting, I'm waiting, so we're just waiting at the moment. It'd be silly for me to start pre-prepping and everything with a certain budget in mind, etc., or ask the other companies if this guy suddenly comes back and says, "Yeah, we'll take that film," and then I can say we've got another one, and he may push that in front of whoever it is that's got the money that will be buying the first film. So, but yeah, we'll get done. I'm whatever I say I'll do, I pretty much do. So I've said I'll do it, and I've got the script. So I'm just waiting. It's just a waiting game at the moment. Unfortunately, a lot of this stuff is film work. Weeks. I used to say this when doing other stuff, other projects. I used to say weeks turn into months, and it's ridiculous. You think, how can something turn into why can't someone say yes? Why can't they just say yes, but it doesn't. For some reason or other, it just doesn't work like that. It's like someone will get back to you, and it will be a week or 2 weeks. Like, why? But that's how it all unfortunately bloody works, which is really really frustrating. So yes, it will come along. So yeah, I'll probably give it to the end of this month, and then if we've not heard back from the guys, start work on pre-production of it. Thank you for asking though. Snoopy's wrote Father Ted's show was just tops all. I never got into that. I probably never watched it, to be honest. That's probably why I never got into it. But I think it was the Irish family or something like that. I never really watched it, so I can't say whether I enjoyed it or not. But if you did, that's cool. Chalkies wrote, in your opinion, on your Patreon page, there are two who built the pyramids, and uh, how also the origin of the rhesus negative. Yeah, so there's a new, well spotted actually. There's a new. So I did do one video where it was a very brief outline of what I think why the pyramids were built. Since then, I've gained more information that helps me solidify that, but I need to do it with evidence. So the one that's out there is sort of my opinions. The one that's coming will have the facts. It will lay it all out. And in fact, that if you watch that or listen to that Michael Tellinger video about the stones, he was saying that it's the stones would have heated up the planet, which is exactly what I'd been saying before he said it. So yeah, the new video will hopefully have everything in place so that people can go, that's why they were built, weather manipulation to heat up the planet. So fingers crossed it all works out. But the videos, I haven't started that one yet. So, but all the things are in my head in place, so it should work and work well. And the video of the origin and the rhesus negative. Well, it's not. I've got two videos on the rhesus negative blood. One is the Anunnaki and rhesus negative blood, which gives you. I mean, I can't say it as 100%, but it basically says that the Anunnaki probably had rhesus negative blood, probably blue, believe it or not, because of what rhesus negative is and how. Long story, I won't bore you, but which makes a lot of sense with the royal blue blood. So there's a certain, when you don't have a certain thing in your blood, I can't remember the name of it. This is why I do those videos, so I don't have to remember everything. It could be blue, so there is a chance that the Anunnaki, when they bred with the Homo sapiens, Homo sapiens sapiens, they had blue blood. But then the Anunnaki later on, when they created us a second time after the Great Flood, they'd done something to females so that they would periodically not have babies. In other words, skip generations, and that was to control the population. In their own words, not mine. So that to me is, so I can't say 100%, but it's as logical as you're ever going to get, that they gave us Rh negative blood deliberately, because that does skip generations and it does make the womb barren. In other words, kid dies, you can't have a kid. Obviously, we've got technology now to counter that, but obviously back then we didn't, and so babies would die. People would call it the Lamash 2. Lamash 2, which was the name of what people eventually called it, a demon, but it was basically where you would have a stillborn where the baby dies, and so people thought it was a demon, but it wasn't a demon. Obviously, it was. Not everyone obviously would have had a stillborn because of the Rh negative. There's obviously other reasons, but that's what that was to do with. Chalkies wrote, obviously not the Egyptians. No, not building the pyramids. No, it would have been the Anunnaki for sure, 100%. Yeah, the Egyptians, because even there's 1,000 pyramids worldwide. Egyptians have never been in some of those countries. Africans have never been in some of those countries. So someone who had a small footprint, in other words, hi Kerry, someone that had a small footprint, in other words, someone that didn't. We're limited. Thank you, Kerry. Just to let everyone know, we're limited to 30 people. I did say that right at the beginning, and we're at 30, so we're not going to get any more than that because I tell the truth and they don't like it. But yeah, so it weren't the Egyptians because it would have, you know, the technological know-how to go around different countries and build pyramids for no reason whatsoever. If we pretend that they were the Egyptian people building it for no reason, obviously there has to be a reason. And when you realise that the reason is, if I'm right, which I'm sure I am, weather manipulation, then then it makes sense because the Anunnaki would have needed that done, but the Egyptians wouldn't have cared less whether or not the the temperature of the planet was X, Y, or Z. And of course, the pyramids were built prior to the the Egyptians. Even technically, there was a pre-dynastic, there was a pre-diluvial Egypt. So there was people, but obviously when the flood came, they died. And then after the flood, they built the three pyramids in Giza. And I'm not sure the timeline, whether it was around the same. It's roughly around the same time they would have built. They would have recreated the same, the humans after as well. So not too far around that same sort of time, which is why no humans had wrote down anything about the pyramids. They wrote down everything else, wrote down what they had for breakfast, all sorts of stuff. If you know anything about the Egyptians, they wrote down everything, but they didn't write about the pyramids at all. Now there are pyramid texts, but they are dated way after the pyramids were built. So it's bad researchers quote. Really bad researchers quote the pyramid text. Oh, no, there's texts inside the pyramid, therefore it's pyramid text, therefore it was done by Egyptians because the texts were written by Egyptians and point to a particular pharaoh, blah, blah, blah. No, those texts were done hundreds, if not 1,000, if not more years after the pyramids were built. So it's no mention whatsoever of the who built them, which is another reason why it would have been the Anunnaki, because they don't not going to sit there and go, I was here. Astro's right. I keep seeing all the debunk videos about the pyramids and the other stuff. It always seems impossible. When you say debunk videos, I know there's people out there that have moved a block by putting a block on top of some logs and then swiveling those logs so that the block moves. I mean, that's you could do that with a car. You could do it with a block. It's the moving of them. A mile in sand, because the quarry for the Great Pyramid or the Giza pyramids was a mile away. And people say, "Oh, well, they brought it down the Nile," but the Nile was a mile away from the quarry. It's just like, no, please stop. Thank you, bioelectric. Thank you very much. Yeah, people say, "Oh, they brought it down the Nile because there was this tiny bit of papyrus, which was actually to do with something else way later on." But they say, "Oh no, look, it's proof that the blocks were brought down by boats along the Nile." No, that's proof that they brought blocks down way later. It has nothing to do with the pyramids. It doesn't even say pyramid on it whatsoever. Thank you, Astral. Um, so yeah, in order to get the blocks to the Nile, it would have took them a mile. So they might as well have just started building the ramp, and for the height of the Great Pyramid, at a certain distance, you would have needed to either have the ramp a mile long to get to the top, or it would have needed to be in a spiral all the way around the pyramid to do it, unless you had anti-gravity technology. And even then, even if you did have the spiral around it, you still needed it a very, very long distance leading up to it. And of course, if we believe mainstream, which we don't, that it was built in 20 years, that's one every 2.5 minutes without nighttime and without. So in other words, one every minute. I don't know if you ever seen any builders working, but no, you're not going to get it one every minute, including nighttime. It's not going to happen. And then obviously the Nile flooded as well right up to the pyramids, so they would have probably had to have stopped for a month or so for that as well. So no, it wasn't done like that. And then you get people saying that it was built by using molds. So it was, in other words, it was limecrete as opposed to limestone. It was like concrete, but limecrete. Now the problem with that is you can get around the area there is no lime, the actual lime, as in a mixture. First of all, we've got the quarry. We know where the quarry is. We can see that literally the blocks cut out of the quarry. So there's the first problem that people have with the limecrete. The second one is it takes 2.5 weeks to cure. In other words, to solidify. So that's your second problem, because obviously that then means the time frame for 20 years to build it is completely out the window. You would have needed more than 20 years because you would have had to have waited for blocks to cure, to harden. But the other problem with that is I can't say every single block, but each block is a different size, which means when you've got a mold, you would have changed that mold each time you're putting a block down, instead of like Lego blocks where you'd put them all down and it all fits nice and perfect. These blocks are different measurements, different widths, different heights, different sizes. So some by a millimeter, some by 5 centimeters, but they're all different. And so of course the limecrete doesn't quite work there because the mold that you have would have had them all equal. If you're smart, you would have done it all equal, as opposed to having 2.3 million molds, or one mold or a few molds that can change the size each time for no reason whatsoever, really. So yeah, no, it's they were cut out of literally the quarry. You can just look it up. You can actually see the pyramids from the quarry, and you can actually see the block cut marks of where they've cut the. Thank you, Astral. Ah, thank you. Where they've cut the blocks out. So, but that's not. You got to remember that's just the Giza. Let alone the other pyramids around the world, where Bosnia's pyramid, for example, the stones come from 70 plus miles away. You think, well, no one's going to go through that hassle of swamps back there. No roads, no helicopters, no infrastructure. No. Scrolling down. Alfred is right. Alfred, is it true that Free Eye Atlas has 5 million soldiers held in stasis on the ship? A remote viewer said. Uh, 5 million. So you'd need to. Depends what size they are. Unfortunately, I don't have a calculator here, but if you do the math on the size of 5 million and then work out the size of 3i Atlas, which is 3.5 miles, which is quite big, it's big. You could do the math on that and see whether or not there was, but obviously it's now on its way out. It's past. It's done its perigee. It's past the asteroid belt. It's on its way out again. It's up to Jupiter roughly, if not a little bit further now. So the logic of having people in stasis just sitting there, standing there, whatever, laying there, and then it just sort of flies by us, and who's to say it was for us anyway, even if there was 5 million. And the thing is, when you have a remote viewer saying 5 million, you know what my brain's like. The first thing I'm going to say is, how do you know 5 million? Did it say a sign 5 million? Why can't it be a million? A million's a lot. If you look at a million people, you wouldn't know whether there's a million people or 2 million people or 3 million people. So when someone tells you a quote like 5 million, my spider senses tingle straight away because they should have said millions and that would have been fine. But when they give a quote of 5 million, it's like the person that pretended that there was a whole sunken continent of Lemuria. When he said millions died, or he actually gave a figure. I can't remember it off the top of my head now. And I'm like, how do you know that? We don't know any Lemurians because obviously there was no Lemurians, but we don't know any Lemurians that's died. We have no writings of them. How the hell? And he wasn't a remote viewer. This was just some guy that saw sunken lands and said, "Oh, that must have been another continent," and therefore, when it's sunken structures, which we know was the Anunnakis because the Great Flood. But this guy seemed to think that there was a different civilization, and so said millions had died. Well, how does he know? There may have been none that had died. Obviously, some may have died because obviously the buildings, but to quote a certain amount of people is ridiculous. So yeah, I struggle with people that make up numbers. Astrals wrote, they keep saying it's a rock, and it's a rock. It's this and that, but they're making a big fuss out of it. Yeah, I mean, it has done things that you wouldn't expect a rock to do. That's the crux of it. For example, the outgas is at one point was coming out the front of it, which is really weird because you normally have gas coming out the back of a towel. Out of a comet. We've even got I've even put the actual time lapse showing the gas coming out the front of it on my amazing video, which drops in 4 days. So it's supposedly it's tumbling. Then it's not tumbling. Once it got fairly near Jupiter, it's on the way back out. It's sort of settled. There's a lot of discrepancies, and that's what's making people wonder why. So that's the reason why there's a big fuss over it. It's because it's a strange item. And funny enough, just yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago, NASA said that they found another. Because I was looking for all the stuff today, and I was like, hang on a minute, this isn't 3i Atlas, this is another one, and it does say NASA's found another object. I was like, oh, crying out loud! Let me just finish this freaking video first before I start another one on another object. So, and they said they're not ruling. Apparently, they're not ruling out. I didn't even add that to this video, but they're not ruling out that it's not natural. In other words, it could be an alien craft. This new freaking thing, but yeah, I'll leave that one for now. But yeah, so the 3i Atlas video is done if you're interested in it. Alfredo's right. I can't make a ship out of a rock, but I once made a car out of spaghetti. Should have seen wait for the punchline. Look on my girl's face when I drove past her. There it is. Oh dear, Alfredo. Scrolling down. That was Alfredo's bad joke, not mine. Don't blame me. Mine are bad. Alfredo's actual history. For you to attempt to debunk NASA is almost sacrilegious. They never lie. Yeah. I mean, I think anyone can catch NASA out. Yeah. Scrolling down, Alfredo's wrote, Outer History, is there anything written about the Anunnaki being able to shapeshift or shift consciousness? Nothing that I've read at all. So, well, actually, I have to stop there and say there was Enlil, when you'll know the same story in Greek, where he changed his appearance and seduced Sud. You'll know her as Hera in the Greek story. So he did change, but there is, I think it was the Moorhens translation where, I might be wrong, might not have been Moorhens, might have been Zacharias Sitchin's, but there is, or I can't remember where I read it, but there is a tablet or translations where Enki, it may have been even the Greek story. It may have been the Greek story. Forgive me. I try to remember absolutely everything from different cultures. It's quite hard. But there was a story where, while in that guise, I think one was a bird. One story was a bird, um, and he was another slightly different animal in the other story. Same story, but just obviously the Greeks got their stories from the older stories. So anyway, someone he said to someone, "Do you know who I am?" or something, and this other person said, "Yeah, you're Enlil. I can see right through you and know who you are." So I don't know what kind of costume he wore, whether it was just whether he put the eagle helmet on, pretended he was a bird, or whether or not he, shapeshifted. My gut feeling is he didn't shapeshift. I mean, they look like us. We're in their image. If they had said we're in their image, but we can't shapeshift, then I would have said fine. But we're in their image, so I would say no, they can't shapeshift. I mean, they've got two arms, two legs, two eyes, blah blah blah. They look like us except taller. So I can't imagine them shapeshifting. That being said, again, arguing myself because that's the only way to truly get the answers. That being said, obviously we do have carvings of them as mermaids, so you could argue that they may have had the ability to shapeshift, but knowing that they genetically, and they did, again, going back to Belarus, who was the priest of Marduk, I probably pronounce his name slightly wrong, he literally goes through and describes, the hybrid creatures that were created, not, not because they bred with each other, but they were created. And they were in a special area, and there was a female that was looking after them, these creatures. So knowing that they create hybrids, you could argue that people may have thought they shapeshift because they can create these creatures. So, but I would still say no. I don't think they can physically create shapeshift. There's a good. People have asked that, so I can't put you in the class, I'm afraid, for that one. Anime Age wrote, "Do you reckon there is many non-human entities from different star systems created?" From different star systems created this simulation on Earth. So I don't think we're in a simulation personally. I really don't. I just, we can. At what point does it become not a simulation? So, for example, if I got loads of chemicals together and managed to form a new life, brand new microscopic single-celled organism, is that a simulation? Or is that just me doing that because chemicals can create life under the right circumstances? So, to the organism that I've just created, am I a simulation, me, because I just created it? Probably not. See, the thing is, I've been doing this for over 40 years, and I mean, literally, you guys know, I lap up this stuff. I read everything that I can, and truthfully, no one was really mentioning the simulation until Matrix came along, and then we're all in the simulation. And then when AI's come along, now it's we're in an AI simulation, and instead of an alien simulation. So I I don't see we're in a simulation. I just think this is so. Um, so I don't think, yeah, personally, I don't think we're in a simulation. If that in the way that I think you're right in it. I don't know if that's what you mean. Astral's right. I want to read a bit more because I'm RH negative, and I don't feel like I'm from this earth. um, so I have got two videos and some other stuff. I chat with an amazing, absolutely amazing researcher. So there's a 2 hour live chat with her. If you want to go and listen to that, it's on Spotify, I think, and on my website. Thank you, Astral. It's on YouTube, I think, as well, possibly. Thank you, Kev, as well. So yeah, there's a couple of bits and pieces to do with RH negative on there. I would listen to the live chat first that I did with that lady. Very knowledgeable. I mean, so knowledgeable that she was kept getting booted off of TikTok. Um, Literally, I mean, I waffle on about all sorts of stuff, and I'm touch wood not being kicked off, but I am limited to 30 people, as you can see. But I used to have hundreds. But yeah, she was literally kicked off. Now I know she talked about the BLOOD a lot, blood groups and stuff. So whether or not that was triggering it, I don't know. But she certainly knew her onions. So if I was you, I would listen to that live chat first, and then go and watch my videos on RH negative, because what you'll learn in those 2 hours is so much more than any AI will ever tell you, or any medical association. What she looks into all sorts of stuff, whether or not a bit like me, she was really really good. Like whether or not they had webbed fingers. Sometimes people with RH negative had webbed fingers, which then you start thinking, well, hang on a minute. The Anunnaki did carve a merman and a mermaid. So, were they aquatic? So have a listen to that. You can get to it from my website. I think it's on Spotify, etc. But you should be able to get to it from my website. If you can't, do send me a message in the background, and I will hunt it down and send it to you via email, or send you the link, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, I will do it for you, Astral. That don't tell anyone else. It's just for you. But no. So yes, that's what I would do if you're interested in. Because if you are RH negative, she was going through so much. I mean, 2 hours. She literally spoke the whole lot. There's no point in me cutting her off or talking, because she knew there was just no point. So you get 2 hours. Unfortunately, a battery or something died, which is why it would have went on for hours and hours. I have got some other videos of hers, because she asked me to back them up. So yeah, it's just quite interesting. Kerry's wrote, "Hi sir, hi everyone, hi Kerry, nice of you to join. Hope you're kneeling down praying." You know what I'm saying, Kerry. Hope everything's fine for you. Alfredo did mention you earlier, by the way, when he joined. He said, "Hello, everyone, even Kerry." So I don't know what you two have got going on there. So I thought I'd point that out. Stevens wrote, "Do you think the Vatican know more about our history, or just propaganda?" Oh, no, they know. Oh, good God, they know. They know, no, no. So the Vatican, if you watch my amazing documentary on who built the Vatican, it would have been built for Marduk, because there was already a pantheon of gods there. And then suddenly, with the Vatican being monotheistic, which was Marduk, so it was built for Marduk. Absolutely. There's another video I've done, where well, it's the why Jesus was born. That ties in with the Vatican video as well, where you realise that the time frame of Romans going over to Mesopotamia and the Middle East and Israel, etc., was smack bang when Marduk needed someone to run his country there for him. And unfortunately, Jesus said no. Very pessimist, or not very aggressive. But yeah, long story short, the Vatican, absolutely, yeah, they've got. I think it works out 23 miles of underground tunnels with storage in them. So that's 23 miles worth of ancient stuff. They've got 3 museums. They've got there was a painting in one of the basements. I don't know if you guys know this, but I did a TikTok video on it, but not a lot of people know this. There was a painting that they removed or moved deep down in one of the underground parts of the Vatican, and behind it there was a carving which they didn't even know was there, and it was of a hybrid. I think, don't quote me, I think it was a centaur. and they were like, "Why is this here? Why? You know, this is not Greek. This is Rome. Why have we got a centaur here carved on this wall, hidden by a painting that's been there for Christ knows how long?" So they know the Vatican was they know. I can't say any more than that. They know, and there's apparently a vault that has other stuff in it that you will never get privy to. But some people supposedly have been in there. People that are like 33-degree Masons and stuff have come out and said, which is kind of weird because obviously the Masons, when you're 33 degrees, you should not be talking about stuff that's in the Vatican vault. So I do worry a little bit that the information we're getting given is crap, but they say that there's giant skeletons, which would make sense because obviously, the Anunnaki were giants. So if they're going to bury them somewhere, why not bury them in a vault? And when I say the vault, I mean it's probably huge. We imagine a vault being, the size of a bank vault, but when you've already got 20 something odd miles worth of tunnels with artifacts on them all the way down, then that vault is probably big. And there's other tunnels as well underneath the Vatican that goes out to different places for escape routes, etc. So yeah, they know, the Vatican knows. Now whether or not every single person in there knows, I can't say. But I mean, the doors were built 23 foot high. You don't build a door for no reason unless someone's going in there that's 20 foot high. So yeah, but feel free to watch my Vatican document. I mean, the car, even the Vatican symbol. Do you know what the Vatican symbol is? Have a look, you'll see, and you'll realise it's the same as the eagle, the American eagle on the dollar bill, which is the same as the winged disc, which is the Anunnaki's home planet. So they know about the Anunnaki because their symbols is the Anunnaki home planet. So what you have is you'll realise that the winged disc is seen in different cultures, ever so slightly different style, but it's still the same winged disc where it's got the two things at the bottom and the ribbon and all that crap, and the wings coming out. But just drawn differently for a different thing. And so the Vatican, I think it's two keys crossing, but you'll see that it's still got the ribbon and all that lot. Yeah, it's it's the Anunnaki's home planet symbol. So which is, it would make sense because Marduk got Vatican created. If you watch my video, you'll see. Bioelectrics wrote stopping in to say hello, everyone. Hi, Bioelectric. Nice of you to join. Thank you very much. Hope you're well. Astrals wrote, yeah, exactly, with a thumbs up. I can't remember what I was talking about that moment, but thank you. Scrolling down. People chatting to each other. This is live. I was reading questions. Astrals wrote, yes, there is so many things that seem impossible to build. Yeah, I mean, when you look at Mesoamerica with sort of Pumapunku and Teotihuacan, etc., and the blocks that they have, the only way those blocks could have slid into each other like that is if those blocks were malleable. In other words, literally just like jelly. That's the only way they could have been put there like that, because no one's cutting them to the right size before they put them on. These were, and the thing is, there are stories of ancient stories of stones. When you have a certain sound frequency, those stones become malleable. They become like jelly, which makes a lot of sense because they've got quartz in them and stuff like that. So when you have a resonance frequency, it just turns to putty, turns to jelly, and then so you can stick one on top of the other, regardless of what the shape was of the one underneath. This one will mold itself because it's like wet clay, and it will just mold itself. And then when they pull the stick out that they had with the blob of stone, I say blob because it would have been malleable, when they pull the stick out, you end up with this little nubbin that comes out. And historians are like, have no idea why those things are there. But of course, when you realize that if you had a prod or a stick or something that was inside when you pull it out, that's what would happen, because as it suddenly hardens, because the frequency, the sound resonance that you're not playing anymore suddenly hardens, you're going to get a little bit of a nubbin, that's something that sticks out. And so that's how I believe that they were. We could easily test it. Just someone needs to go there with a freaking huge speaker and a oscilloscope and things like that, where they can change the frequency, and just do it until you can, put your finger into the block and go, aha, natural history was right, as always. But no one's going to do that, unfortunately. No one's probably even thought of doing it. Bella's wrote, hi, wise one. How are you this evening? Oh, thank you, Bella. I'm not too bad, thank you very much. Very nice of you to ask. And thank you to say the wise one, bless. I'm not. But that's really nice of you to say. Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, just chilling, really. Thank you, and hope you're having a great evening as well. D has wrote, what is the difference between Orion and Zeta Grays? Friendly. So the Z, from everything that I've learned, obviously I can't show you evidence, but this is just from what I've learned. The Zetas do not like the Orion Greys. The Orion Greys are an android type species that are cloned. They look identical to each other. There's some robotic components to them. I'm not, hard to say exactly, but that's the description that we've been given. That it's sort of an androidy type biological entity. So it's a biological entity. So it's not a robot. It's an android which has got synthetic skin and stuff over it. I guess you could probably more call it cyborg, to be honest. But I don't know, enough about the makeup of it to be able to give you an exact description. But the Zetas are slightly taller. The Zetas do not like the Orions, and the Zetas are technically friendly, but they have their outlook is different to ours. So I'll just give you one example. So when there was the Project Serpo, where 13 military or 13 personnel was going to their home planet, apparently one of the personnel, because it was an exchange program, even though they didn't leave anyone here, one of the personnel died on the ship on the way there to Zeta Reticuli, and they took the body of this human and was starting to take it apart, literally take it apart with, for genetics. And the captain of the mission said, "Where's the body?" And they said, "We're, taking it for genetics, etc." And he said, "Over my dead body." It almost got into a shooting match. He was going to pull his gun out and stuff. They don't see, their mindset is, I guess logical. It's like, well, he's dead. It's now a carcass. We can benefit from it. That's their. So when I say they're kind and friendly, they're not going to come and attack us, but at the same time, they have their, their own ways of doing things, and obviously it's sometimes conflicts with our ways of doing things. Whereas the Orions, they're basically told what to do by the tall whites, and the Orions are, even though they're, half robot, their intelligence isn't that good. They're the ones that when they abduct you, they put and yes, the Zetas do abduct people as well. They're the ones that lifted up Betty and Barney Hill, and they were the nice ones, because she said that they injected something into her navel. So you got to remember, they're very. The Zetas are very logical. So, but anyway, so she said it was hurting, and they stopped doing it, and she said she was grateful for that. So they are friendly in that way. Whereas the Orions, will stare at you blankly, and so you could be screaming your head off, and it wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm sorry," or the only time that they would want you to stop doing something is there's been a few cases where people have woken up while on an operating field on a table, and there's one guy booted one of the little greys, the Orion greys, and another one said, "Do not do that again. It will be bad for you." Other than that, they don't really talk to you. The Orions, Zetas do. The Orions will talk to you if it's a matter of fact. If it's like stand here, wait here, stop, this, that, and the other. Shush, stop screaming. We are not hurting you, or we won't hurt you. Blah blah blah. That kind of very matter of fact. Whereas the Zetas will have a conversation to a degree, with you. But yeah, they do. The Zetas come here for genetics. The Orions come here for genetics. So there is a difference. And as I say, the Zetas are about 4 foot. The Orions are about 3.5 foot. They do look slightly different. One's got a slightly pointier chin. I'm sure you've seen the Orions are the ones with the big eyes and sort of a childlike roundish face, whereas the Zetas are the more scary looking ones, which is kind of weird because obviously we assume they're scary because of the pointiness of the faces, and they've still got the big eyes as well. But they kind of look like a witch. Do you know what I mean? A long sort of pointy chin, whereas the other ones, the Orions, are more rounded. But obviously, if you're abducted by them, they both have the same sort of skin color, and they've got the big bulbous, big head, and they've still got the almond-shaped eyes, and so not identical eyes, but if you were abducted, you will say you was abducted by a grey, and you probably wouldn't, you're too scared to sort of say, hang on a minute, is there a difference? Show me the difference. One looked like this and one would look. You just say it's a grey. So that's unfortunately why a lot of these stories that I've researched over the years, they just say a grey, and I'm like, oh man, which one? So yeah, there definitely is a difference between them. Astrals wrote, what do you think this could be? Two big lights, look like big stars, okay, moving towards each other. If they're in the sky, two big lights moving towards each other, obviously any terrestrial aeroplane, etc. But normally with aeroplanes, they should always have a red and green light flashing. So if they haven't got that, and there's two lights way up in the sky, obviously we've got drones now that don't. A lot of drones don't have the red and green lights. But if it's definitely up high in the sky, and you see two lights moving towards each other, then it could be one of two things. Really, it could be a back-engineered or military flying object, spaceship, or it could be an alien spaceship. So it's hard to know which one, depending on, obviously we've got back-engineered, saucer craft as well as the triangle craft. So it's a very grey area nowadays to know who it is that is piloting whatever craft. So I couldn't tell you, to be honest, just by the lights, I'm afraid. Astrals wrote, then they meet and they look like they crash together. I see a red light fall down from it, the two. So there have been videos, you can find them online, I'm sure, where UFOs have parted together. In other words, they were suddenly there's now two from one, and at the same time, not at the same time, but at the same research, you'll find lights do go into each other. Same size light. You think, well, what happened there? How did that work? Obviously, we don't know, but that's what we see. Looks like, they could have been directly behind each other. It could have just joined with it, or it could have been absorbed by it. We don't know. Regarding the red light falling down, I have heard stories of lights, not necessarily ones where the two objects join with each other, but I have heard of objects coming down from lights. Now, military, when I've looked into those cases where there's lights that look like they've been dropped or something that's come down from a craft, when I look into those cases, military say, oh, it's an aeroplane or it's a helicopter, and they was letting off flares. So they get out of it by saying that, because some flares can actually go down quite slowly. So that's their argument. So I don't know what it is. Never got to the bottom of that. So personally, I don't think it would be a flare. But I mean, the Phoenix Lights incident back in '97, military said they were flares. The big lights that blacked out the sky. Crazy. Military said no, they were flares. Crazy. Astrals wrote, became one big star, laugh out loud. This is what I see in the sky. Yeah, I've seen videos of where they join with each other. I've never seen one where it becomes bigger. So I've never heard or seen any videos where two objects join. They normally join and still stay the same size, which is, perplexing. But to see them and join bigger, I've never seen that myself. So I can't answer that, I'm afraid, unless it is just two objects joining together, or very close and it looks like one big object. That might be what may have happened. But you're very lucky to see something. Astrals wrote, but then again, my aunt sees Zygmunt Adamski meet up with an alien ship with greys and an octopus. I don't know. I remember there was a guy called Adamski, but his name was George Adamski, I think it was, who took photographs of UFOs. So I don't know if that's the same person or someone else called Zygmunt. I don't know who that is, so I apologise. You've got me on that one. But meeting up with greys and an octopus, yeah, that'd probably be about right. Cotswolds are out, evening all. Hi Cotswolds, nice of you to join. Natural Demon Slayer wrote, it's certainly your projection. I'm not sure what that's referring to. If you let me know, that would be interesting. I'm not sure whether that was to do with someone else or whether it was something I'd said. Astrals wrote, "Thank you. I will listen to that." That was to do with the RH negative. Yeah, it's if you can't find it or if it's behind a paywall, let me know. I'll send you the audio, no problem at all. I'll send you the videos. Cotswolds wrote, "You work out whom Lucifer and Archangel was. Could you work out the others were or not enough to go on?" Um, so you're referring to the video where I solved who Lucifer was, and then you said, "Could you work out the others?" When you say the others, really, there's only one other, and that would be Satan, which was an adversary. I don't think there was enough to go on because it was literally just adversary. And then the Greeks, as usual, ended up changing it to Satan, and or Satan or something like that. Which ones are you referring to? When you say could you work out the others, who the others were, or not enough to go? So if we're going along the lines of Lucifer, then obviously that we know who that is now. But the only other one in terms of that, because obviously the devil would have been Nurgle. Demons are just anyone that you want to call a demon. So I'm not quite sure. If you let me know, Cotswolds, I'll be happy to look into it. Kerry's wrote, that sounds like something Alfredo would say. Alfredo's wrote, geez, you chucked me under the bus, why don't you? Well, you said it not knowing probably that Kerry was here. So I assumed that you was prepared for any flack that you may have got by saying even Kerry, because if she wasn't here and you knew she wasn't here, you probably wouldn't have said it. So I assumed you was prepared for the um, sorry, but if you didn't want me to say it, I next time as your wingman, let me know. And Animes wrote, "Do you reckon there is many non-human entities from different star systems created life on this earth? Created life on this earth. So, from what I pertain, happened is Nibiru smashed into Tiamat, which was the frost giant, the planet. Tiamat broke up, got seeded because of the smash from Nibiru to Tiamat. That makes a lot of sense. We're both carbon based, blah blah blah. Their animals can come down. We've got sheep and goats from them, so they bred with us and they use their genetics to create an Homo sapiens. So that would make a lot of sense that them and us are not too dissimilar. That I have no problem with. And obviously, if a huge planet smashes into another one, Christ knows what's going to get transferred from one planet to another. So yes, I go along with that. That makes a lot of sense. Um, so I think that's how our planet got seeded with life to start with. So Nibiru already had life. We know that because humans would actual humans, not Homo sapiens. Humans have been around about 4 million years, give or take. 4 million years of humans. That's without all the other creatures getting to the point to become a human, such as Lucy or a Neanderthal or a Homo erectus, a caveman, whatever you want to call them. That's that's 4 million years ago, and then we start going backwards from that, and it starts de-evolving into something different, blah blah blah. So the Anunnaki's planet, from their point of view, from obviously our point of view is different, but from their point of view, has only been in our solar system 1 million years. So the chances that they've evolved, their planets evolved life on their planet and suddenly got to a stage where in just 1 million years where the Anunnaki can come, build buildings, genetically modify us, etc., suggests to me, and obviously the texts tell us that they saw what was happening and told us that their planet smashed into it thingy, and then they told us about the asteroid, about how they tied it all together and made it a firmament. So they were here 1 million years ago of their time, which is 4.6 billion years of our time, which means that their planet probably did have life, because obviously they tell us that those things. So if their planet already had life and it did smash into Tiamat, which mainstream do agree that Earth was smashed into by something, then yes, Tiamat would have been seeded by Nibiru. Regarding other creatures or aliens coming here, we only have any records of the Anunnaki coming here. I know there's researchers, or I say researchers, numpties out there that say, oh, millions and millions of years ago, the Draco, this and the Christ knows what, all that crap that they make up. I've heard it all. There's another one that's come out and said, oh, the Anunnaki created the Draco so that, from dinosaurs. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. If that was the case, then why did they need to create humans if they created these Dracos millions and millions of years ago that are smart and live underground? These, reptilian humanoids. Why not just ask them for help? If they can live underground, they can probably tunnel underground. So the Anunnaki needing us to carry, rocks out of mines that are doing. So in other words, some numpty made up a whole crap load of stupidness. So the only evidence we've really got of any extraterrestrials in the past would have been the Anunnaki. So you can forget Atlanteans, you can forget Lemurians. It was the Anunnaki. Now that being said, we have had whistleblowers, etc., say that for a long time, not as long as the Anunnaki's been here, but for a long time, aliens have been genetically changing us, or literally as want of a better word, genetically doing stuff to us, which we all know, from the abduction stories, etc. So they've definitely been doing something. They're not doing it, they're not abducting us and giving us a cup of tea. They're abducting us and doing stuff to us so that the next generation, or skip a generation, and then they pick up the next person, the child or the grandchild, and then do another manipulation on that, and then so on and so on until eventually they get to the goal that they were after, which is a what do you call it? A hybrid that can live on Earth. So, but they didn't, as far as I'm aware, I haven't heard anything different. They haven't actually sort of created life here. They've just manipulated us and probably other animals as well, for all we know. I'd be stupid for them just to say, "Oh no, we only want humans." We can't, change color. We can't regrow an arm or a leg, whereas there's some species that can. We can't smell a drop of water in in an ocean and drop of blood. So we're not. We're just one of many species on this planet that they could utilize genetics from, just as we do now. I mean, we're our scientists are always taking animals and insects, etc., and doing all sorts of stuff. So it's a good question. Go number 3 in the class for that. But I would say the Anunnaki, seeded by the planet, Anunnaki created us, and then pretty much no other species created anything that I'm aware of. Cotswolds, how far back did the Anunnaki contact with the Roman Empire go? Well, obviously the Anunnaki were here before anyone, so that would be where it was. But I'm guessing you're saying, at what point did the Roman Empire have anything to do with the Anunnaki? Well, there was a pantheon of gods in Rome, which was Enlil's family. So, yeah, they, I'm guessing you're going to go down the road as, was Julius Caesar told to do something by one of the Anunnaki? I haven't looked into all of that, but the Anunnaki are not going to leave people that they don't know in charge, that they can't control, in charge of something. They're not just going to let some random person go around and do something. So, they even created those elongated skulled people that went around with humans and were in charge of those humans. So someone in Rome at some point or another was probably an elongated skulled person, not an Anunnaki, but an elongated skulled person that was in communication with the Anunnaki. And so personally, I think that the Roman Empire was probably told to go to Israel and the Middle East, etc., and the Near East to attack. Personally, that's just my gut feeling. And of course, once Marduk realised that his people were starting to get killed, he decided to go to Rome for the first time, and found out who the leader was, which was Constantine. Had a light in the sky, his UFO, stuck the speakers on and said, "Do as you're told, build me this," which he did. And then suddenly the pantheon of gods and Nil's lot all, weren't there anymore. In fact, they even took the pine cone from the pantheon and put it into the Vatican. So yeah, that's how I see it happening. So yes, so they would have been in charge, but I haven't looked to see who would have been, whether it's Caesar or someone else. I haven't looked into that. I mean, down the line, if I've got time, if you want me to, I will. Alfredo's trying to cover it now with Kerry. I know, but our True History made it sound like I was cheeky to use or something. I was being nice. No, you wasn't. Even Kerry. Hello, everyone. I hope you're well. Even Kerry. Oh, Alfredo, just give up. But you was being cheeky, but in a nice way. It wasn't, obviously he wasn't doing it, Kerry, as a bad thing. He was just being cheeky, which is, we know Alfredo, and that's the sort of thing he would say. So, but he was doing it nicely. He wasn't being rude. L Blocker wrote, hello, happy to find you again. Oh, thank you, L Block. Nice of you to join. Thank you very much. We are limited to 30 people, roughly, and as you can see, we're still at 30. So tomorrow morning, I was going to do a live, UK time. I was going to do a live on the other account. It's only got 130 people or something followers, but I want to see whether I can get past 30, because if I get past 30, obviously we're limited. There's no way I could keep saying every time I do these that I went on someone else's live the other day, and they had 67 at that moment in time, and I was like, oh, I remember when we was allowed 67, but yeah, 30s. Jeliza has wrote, my old friend Klaus Donner unearthed giant skeletons. He is on YouTube. Very interesting man. Interesting. Interesting. So, yeah, I mean, if you can tell me what areas that he unearthed these skeletons and whether or not what sort of sizes, if you don't mind, you don't have to, but when I say sizes, because some people have found skeletons of 8 foot, which is obviously a giant, and then there's supposedly people that have found bigger ones, 20 foot, 30 foot, 36 foot. So I'll be interested to know what sizes they were and where he found them, if you wouldn't mind. If you know, if you don't, no worries. Juice has wrote, hi, Juice. Hi, Juice. Nice of you to join. I hope you had a great Christmas. I've seen some of your videos, so it looked like you was having a good Christmas. Cotswolds wrote, I know it's New Testament, but any clue whom the three kings were if Jesus was part Anunnaki? Yeah, I think someone asked me before, but go number one in the class. It is a very fair question. So the thing is, I am rewriting the Bible, but I haven't actually got to Jesus part yet. I'm still on Deuteronomy. I have finished one of my other books, so I'm going to get back to the rewriting of the Bible. So I haven't got to that part yet, but yeah, it's a really good question. If I could solve that. So, but technically the three wise men. I'm just throwing out a logic idea here, seeing what sticks and what doesn't. So obviously they wouldn't have been Anunnaki because they wouldn't have been men, and the Anunnaki called us men. They didn't ever call. I've never read ever where they're talking about one of their own as a man, ever. They're normally talking by their name or the other Anuna gods or gods. Anyway, so let's assume that they were men because they would have probably been men going there. Now they would have probably been offered, been told by. I'm just using. Thank you, Shabazz. I'm just going through through it in my head. So, in order for them to have gone there, they would have needed to have been told what to do because they don't just bring gifts for no reason. So, the logic is that one of the Anunnakis, whether it's an angel messenger or whether it was Marduk himself, had told these characters to go look after this boy. That would make sense. So they travelled from wherever they were to find Mary and this newborn boy. So that makes sense. So, but why would they be three wise men? Well, the Anunnaki called people Artrahasis if they were wise, extremely wise. So in terms of using the terminology of wise, it's something the Anunnaki definitely did. So, in fact, there's a tablet called Artrahasis, which I believe is talking. There's lots of stuff in that Artrahasis tablet, so it's not all about Artrahasis. There's a hell of a lot of stuff in there, but there is one section where it's talking about a character called Artrahasis, which, in my opinion, was Moses in that tablet. And he was called Artrahasis because he was extremely wise. Noah was called Artrahasis because he was extremely wise. So when we've got three wise men, Were they extremely wise or were they just wise? Not sure. But would they have had some dealing with the Anunnaki? Yes, someone would have had to have told them to go there. No one in their right mind would just look up and say, "Oh, I'm going to go and bring frankincense, myrrh, and I think the other one was gold." Um, no one's going to bring that for the sake of it without being told to go somewhere, even if they did see a light. So, yes, they were told, and they were probably told to look after. Now, whether or not they were offspring off of Anunnaki, in other words, demigods, probably not. Personally, I mean, Artrahasis, Moses, and Noah, in my opinion, Noah definitely, but Moses, my opinion, was also one of Enki's sons, so they could have been, but I'd need to look at all the wording correctly because sometimes the Bible does have translations from people that had translated it because what we read isn't the original at all. Not even the Hebrew is the original. Not even that version is the original. So the people that wrote the Hebrew version was of the mindset of one God, or was, knew of Marduk as the one main God. Otherwise, it would have been talking about all the other gods in the way that it should be spoken about, but it wasn't. It was more of Marduk. So, yeah, it's something I could look into, or will look into once I get to that section. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, and I'd like to see what because obviously gold. If you break down the gifts that they were given, gold would have been able to be used as currency, so that makes sense. Now, these wise men would have had needed to be fairly rich to go away and give gold out. So the logic there is that they were men of importance. Frankincense and myrrh, I did look into what they were years ago. I mean, we're talking when I was at school. And if I'm not mistaken, I might be it's been a long time. One was a plant, if I'm not mistaken, but I would need to relook at it. So you got to ask yourself what benefit would that be to a baby? And so I would look into, you know, because these are wise men. These are not thick people. You're not going to give a baby, here, baby, here's some stinging nettles. You're not going to do that. You're not going to give him something that he's not going to benefit from. So these were wise men. Um, so yeah, I'd look into that. Yeah, you can imagine. Yeah, I mean, if you want, I'll once I've done the Bible stat section. I could do a video on the three wise men and find out what I've come to. Thank you, Shabazz. Sorry, I, this is what happens with me. I go off on a. Zilla's right. I don't feel Jesus was connected to the Anunnaki. Not heard that before. I've got a video actually on YouTube if you want to watch it. It's called "Who Jesus' Real Father Is." I'm using as much evidence, or pretty much every single scrap of evidence there is. You'll find that in that video, no one's debunked it, and they probably won't ever. I mean, Dan McLaren could have tore it to pieces, but he hasn't. Wes Huff could have tore it to pieces. They haven't. No one's done it. But it comes out that Marduk created Jesus to do a job. So the first video is who Jesus' father is. The second video is why Jesus was created. So he was a hybrid, and he wasn't a half Anunnaki. He wasn't. He probably even had an elongated skull. He wasn't half Anunnaki and half human. He would have been half alien with the elongated skull. And you could say, well, hang on a minute, how did you get that? Well, go watch all my other videos now. All of the latest ones are pointing to that evidence that the Anunnaki created these elongated skulled people. Even there's a carving in Egypt that shows that as well. Isis is holding one. So the evidence is there stacking up that Jesus probably had an elongated skull. Now you could say, well, no one mentioned it, but no one mentioned any of the other people that had elongated skulls. There's no mentions of them, and yet we find them. Akhenaten, no one's wrote down that he had an elongated skull. No one told us that Akhenaten, Tutankhamun had an elongated skull. Does Nefertiti, their grandfather, their great grandfather, the list just, yeah, you get the idea. So just because someone didn't write it doesn't mean he didn't have it. So yeah, feel free to watch that video if you're interested, but I would strongly watch the second one as well, because it tells you why he was created, which solidifies the first video as to that he was created. He was asked, long story short, he was asked to do stuff by Marduk, and he said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm a pacifist. I know I said pessimistic before, but no, pacifist is what I meant. Sorry, got it wrong. Jezillas wrote, I have a childhood memory of abduction. I saw the mantis. Wow. So that's, oh, poor you. I mean, if you remember it, I say poor you because obviously it's not something you would want to remember. So yes, the mantis have been seen. I'm guessing you was on a table or something that they put you on. The mantis have been, lots of reports of the mantis being there in the operating room, overseeing the tall whites and overseeing the little greys. So yeah, interesting. So if you, I mean, is that the only time you feel like you've been abducted, or do you think you may have been abducted more, with missing time and things like that? Or has your parents or your grandparents ever mentioned it, or your children, if you've got any? Be interested to know. Darwin's wrote, Betty and Barney have never been debunked. No, they both had they were both hypnotized separately. You got to remember this is in the 60s. And forgive me for saying this, but let's be honest, they were. He was a black gentleman and she was a white lady in the 60s, married. That's not something you want to go and publicize that you was abducted by aliens. You keep quiet in the 60s in America. That's that would be well, anyway, you get the idea. But yeah, they had their clothing was tested, their car was tested. They both had independent hypnotism, and of course, these were the first recorded. Betty and Barney Hill were the first recorded statements ever of what we now call the Greys. So if they made that up, then everyone else that's come along, as that's been abducted, that said they've seen them, that the crop circle formation that shows an alien grey, Bigelow, what's his name, Robert Bigelow, with his image of on his building of a little grey's face, all of that. Every single person that's ever said they've seen a grey is just copying Betty and Barney Hill, because if they made it up, there's a hell of a coincidence that everyone else has then said the same thing. So because they were the first, and other people have said that they've seen greys in that description, either they were lying, and luckily, just luckily, there is aliens exactly the same description as them and do the same MO. As them. I can't remember how you pronounce it. Something Mirandai opera, something like MO. And so, the car being picked up, the car being, the engine stopping, and the people getting out, and the beam of light, and da 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 da. All of that matches so many other cases. So either Betty and Barney Hill, because they were the first, had a great imagination that ended up being correct, or they were abducted. And thank you, Benjamin. So logic says that they were abducted for sure. And don't forget, Betty drew under hypnosis, she asked them where they were from, and they had a holographic star map in front of her. And so when under hypnosis, only under hypnosis, the I can't remember who it was, someone famous that was hypnotized them. Can't remember who it was. Sagan? No, Carl Sagan. I can't remember who it was. Sorry, but yeah, under hypnotized, she actually drew the star map, which at that point no one knew what that was. I mean, there was only like 3 or 4 points on the page, but no one could work out what star system it was. It wasn't until another 20 odd years later that probably even 30 years later that astronomy books and everything had different star systems now that we can see, which we couldn't back in the 60s. And a school teacher was looking at the image of the star map that Betty had drew and said, hang on a minute, let me try and find out. So she found out that it matched Zeta Reticuli, which is either wrong or right. Now, when you have whistleblowers saying that the aliens from the Roswell crash come from a place called Zeta Reticuli, you got to say, hang on a minute, the Roswell crash was 47, and Betty and Barney Hill was 60, 66, 67, something like that, I think, 68, I can't remember exactly. But, yeah, so, and then Project Serpo was, again, supposedly from whistleblowers, where the 13 people went on a, I don't know what you want to call it, a trip to Project Serpo, or Serpo, which was the name of the planet in the Zeta Reticuli star system. So, I don't think Betty and Barney Hill will ever be able to be debunked. I mean, they had radiation on their car and stuff like that, which they shouldn't have had. So no one's ever debunked them. Diaz wrote, do you know what species crashed in Roswell? Zeta Reticuli is the ones I was just mentioning there. Yeah, there's a few other craft that around in Mexico that were found. One that actually landed, didn't even crash. Supposedly there was another second crash site at the same time as Roswell, but I struggle with that. I really do. That's not to say there wasn't, but I do struggle with it because people say, "Oh, we deliberately brought down the two craft using some sort of microwave energy or something." And my argument is, well, hang on a minute. If you knew that you brought down two craft, then why did you leave it 2 weeks before a rancher finds the bodies? And the shrapnel and the all the debris, and then even when Jesse Marcel goes there, says, "Oh, this was a UFO," and then got told by higher ups, "No, say it was a weather balloon." If you brought them down, you would have had the ability to. So when people say they brought them down, I don't buy that at all. Now they may have been brought down by accident, but they certainly weren't brought down deliberately by using the technology to bring them down, because that doesn't make sense. Because if you're bringing something down and you know it's there, in other words, tracking it, and then it crashes, you don't leave it 2 weeks. That's not how the military work. Astrals wrote, they tried to bunk everything. People do, yeah. Gisella's wrote, a witch. Yeah, I was trying to describe. It's not. Yeah, that wasn't a great description, was it? Thomas has wrote, did the Nephilim look like clowns? No. So the Nephilim, if you're interested, with evidence, I've solved it as usual with everything else that I've solved. I have got a documentary called The Nephilim Solved. Now I know you don't follow me, and I know that you put that probably as a derogatory thing, because obviously if you don't follow me, then writing down something like the Nephilim look like clowns, there is no logical reason for you to put that unless you were trying to make the conversation turn into a circus. Boom, boom, boom. Yes, Thomas, I am smarter than you. Smarter than the average bear. So, but going back to the Nephilim, for those smart people, unlike Thomas, who's interested in the Nephilim, they were the actual word Nephilim. If you go watch my amazing documentary, and it is freaking amazing. I didn't know. I genuinely, when I started doing that documentary, I thought the Nephilim were the sons of the Anunnaki or sons of the Ajiji or children of the Ajiji. That's what I thought because that's what we're all told. And like an idiot, once again, I believed that till I do my own research and then I rip it to pieces. And turns out, you can go watch a documentary with evidence. Turns out, Nephilim just means giants. So it could mean and does mean in throughout the Bible, as the Book of Giants and the Anunnaki texts, etc. It just means giants. So in other words, they're talking. Sometimes they're talking about the Ajiji. Sometimes they're talking about the offspring off of the Ajiji, such as demigods, such as um, Gilgamesh. So Nephilim isn't just the sons of God. In fact, that whole passage is actually to do with the Ajiji. It does talk about the sons of God, but it's actually referring to the Ajiji as the giants in that particular passage in the Bible. But no one knew that until I broke it completely down and pointed out that the heroes of old would have been old because they would have been back when the Ajiji were here mining in gold for the gold, and then obviously they were called heroes. That was the whole point of the Ajiji coming down helping. So totally rewrote the Bible there and history as always. Very proud of my research, by the way. You can probably tell. Um, Scrolling down, Astrals wrote, "It's not recent. It's before drones." Yeah, then I can't say what the red thing was that dropped from the sky. And like I say, I've never heard anything get bigger when they join together. I've heard of objects changing shape in the sky, but never getting bigger with two objects. Jazilla's wrote, "Is the person speaking within this chat?" Yes, I read every single question out. I'm slightly behind on the questions, but I do read every single question out. So this is live. I just apologise, but I do read every question out because if you take the time to write it, I will take time to read it. If that's what you're referring to. Astrals wrote, "Thank you for that." That's me, I'm guessing, replying to whatever it was earlier on. Jazilla's wrote, "Who is he talking to? Is he in a dual chat?" No, this is the only chat I'm chatting to. We are limited to 40 people right now. You'll see there's 40 people in the chat. It will go back down to the 30s. It's just because people's interested, but TikTok will boot them off to keep me at the 30 mark, which is exactly what's happening right now. Scrolling down, Jazilla's wrote, "I must have lost the thread somewhere." That's why I read out everything so that everyone knows where we are. But yeah, I am behind. There's still messages to read, so I'm reading probably messages or did read messages before you got in, joined the chat possibly, and that's probably where you got a bit confused. But no worries at all. It's my fault for wanting to read every single question out. Astrals wrote, "Yes, thank you. I did message you on it, but it's fine." Oh, sorry if you did. I apologise. I do get a lot of messages in the background, and I try and reply as best I can to every one of them. Sorry, don't hate me. Gisella's wrote, "I can't see anyone called Cotswolds." And then Cotswolds wrote, "Sorry, I meant other archangels, who they were." Um, you mean like Gabriel and stuff like that? They could have been just humans. They may not necessarily have been demigods. So I would probably, I'll be honest, I don't think we'll ever find out who they are. They would need to be. I mean, Lucifer was only luck that I came across who he was. Um, when I say luck, skill for researching, but luck because it was one tiny bit that I suddenly went, hang on a minute. But I think the archangels, these are new archangels. We're talking archangels as in the time of Christ, etc., which is only a couple of thousand years ago. So there wouldn't be any Sumerian writing about them at all, because Sumerian writing was long gone by then. So I don't think we'd find out who the archangels were. Bearing in mind, Lucifer was not an angel. I know people call him an angel. There's no evidence whatsoever it was an angel or an archangel or anything at all. Not even a fallen angel. They were the Igigi. So yeah, I don't think I will be able to find out who they were. I think they're more modern, too modern to have anything else written about them. Jazilla's wrote, "Oh, I see. They are up. Yes, they are up further. That was my messages. Sorry, yeah." Jane has wrote 9 p.m. Oh, thank you very much, Jane. I've just looked at the time now. Thank you very much, Goddess. D has wrote, who did Eisenhower make a deal with? Orion or Zeta or Nordic Tall White Mantis, etc. Supposedly, there was supposedly there was the Palladians came first, a couple of weeks before the others. Palladians offered a deal with Eisenhower. Whether this is true or not, I'm just telling you what I've heard. Offered, free energy, blah blah blah, all the good stuff in return for getting rid of the nukes. Eisenhower. This is in what year was this? I can't remember what year. 53. I'm not sure what year it was. Sorry, off the top of my head. But the war hadn't been that long, and of course, Cold War was with Russia and everything was rearing its head. So he said no to them, and then apparently, whether or not it's true, but a couple of weeks later, there was a meeting set up with the Tall Whites, who came down and said, "Okay, we will give you technology. In return, we're allowed to abduct people." So it would have been the Tall Whites that he did the Granada Treaty with. Well, technically, I mean, the Mantists apparently control the Tall Whites, so you could argue that it's the Mantis. But yeah, that they would have been the Tall Whites would have been the ones that he had the meeting with. I have heard someone else say another race, but when I carried on listening to this person, alarm bells was ringing. He was saying a few things that didn't quite ring true, so I've put that out of my head now. The other race that he said, because it just didn't make sense. Canucks wrote, in your opinion, why do you think there are so many heartless or soulless people in the world? It's an interesting question. Go number one in the class. That's an interesting question. So, when you say soulless, I'm guessing you mean without the orb, but really, soulless can also mean, not very nice people. So, if we look, and I know I'm breaking it down to the most simplistic parts, but this is really what it's about. Our brains have the neural pathways that give us our thoughts and our emotions, etc. That we think better not do that. That's not good, and that's not bad. And of course, nurture versus nature. So, people's brains are different. I mean, my brain is different to yours. I can't paint. I can't sing. I can't. There's lots of things I can't do. But I can do other things. So each brain is different, and that's not because of. I mean, there's been research done with twins where they've been separated, and they, have nothing in common whatsoever. And then there's strangers that look like each other that's never met each other, that with the same name, same haircut, and so so we can't say that and there's conjoined twins as well that have different experiences and different thoughts. So we know that it is to do with the brain. It can't just be nurture. So when you've got the brain, which is basically an organic material, can it have different properties? Could it have been because the mother was smoking, drinking, taking drugs? Could it have been the environment? Could it have been that they're near plug sockets with the electricity, electromagnetic? Could it be under the power lines? Lots and lots and lots of different things that we don't really understand that changes the chemical makeup of our brain. So, from my perspective, the really true heartless people have something that most of us don't have. They have something either missing or extra amount of something that's suppressing something in the brain, personally, because normal people, I haven't got a disposition to go and hurt someone, but there are people out there that have no problem whatsoever. um there are probably races that have the same issue, that may look at the world in a different way, not because of the way that their culture is, but because of the way their brains are. Because we know that certain things, you shouldn't go up to a woman and try and do something with her. You know that. But there's people out there that do, and they blame it on their culture. But no, 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 no. It's not their culture. You know whether that's right or wrong. People know whether that's right or wrong. So if these people are missing something in their brain or isn't formed, thank you, whoever that was. Oh, Sono, thank you, Sono. If they're slightly missing something in their brain as a collective, then they're quite happy to do the things that we wouldn't normally do. So that's what I think. It goes back to what I was talking about with the Zeta Reticuli. They look at the world differently, but that's probably because of the way their brain is, not because of where they live on another planet. So that's just my gut feeling, because when you realise that there are whole societies that are quite happy to do things to people that shouldn't ever be done. Animals, an animal won't do, any animal wouldn't do the things that these people do. Um, under normal circumstances, animals don't behave like that, which means that these people have something, an imbalance, shall we say. And when you look at how they were created, how people were created, I mean, the Anunnaki created the black-headed people after, but they were another creation, whereas the first lot were the first Homo sapiens, and then the ones that they put in charge were their offspring, and then they put these elongated people in charge, which means probably the black-headed people weren't probably the world's smartest if they had to be put in charge by people with elongated skulls. And again, that's not, that's just how it is. We know that because Akhenaten, Nefertiti, the carving with Isis, and the fact that we've got these elongated skulls and that people headbound their children to emulate those people. So we know that they probably weren't the smartest people on the planet. But yet, probably the offspring of the Anunnaki were smarter. Well, we know that because they tell us that. So that's the reason why they put those in charge before the elongated skull people came along. So yes, I would say chemical imbalance of some description, as well as forced ideologies as well. So they're probably already susceptible to manipulation because of their brains not being formed, for example, the way mine is. I'll use me as an example because I won't do anything to another person like that they would. So they're already malleable and susceptible to something, and then an ideology comes along and tells them what they should do and that it's no problem doing it, then they can do it. But if so, to me, I would never ever bow to that because that's my brain makeup. So yeah, so that's my opinion. I might be completely wrong, and they may just be some other reasons, but that's just the logic from my point of view. Enoch has wrote, laugh out loud, 33 in the live, huh? Yeah, it goes up, but they do kick people out. I've had people, we're normally limited to about 30. I say about 30 because it can go up to 40, but it will go back down to 30. People do get kicked out. I've had people replying here saying, I've been kicked out twice. So when it gets over the amount, I've sent TikTok messages and stuff, and in fact, just before I did this live, I sent him another one saying, "Are you upset with me, or are you fed up with me for keep asking because you haven't replied to my last 3 messages, and it's been months now. I'm guessing you're ignoring me." That's what I wrote. So yeah, we used to have hundreds. Enoch, we did. I don't know if he was around at that point. We used to have hundreds of people joining in, and then it went to 50, and then, like an idiot, after 9 months, I sent him a message saying, "Look, we're limited to 50," and that's when it went down to 30s. I was like, "Oh, for crying out loud!" Literally changed it from 50. The day after I sent that message, it went down to the 30s. Enoch just wrote they consume the gold. Obviously, you don't build gold mines and take the amount of gold out to ingest it, because you'd still be ingesting it for the rest of your life for another million years, the amount of gold that they've took out. But there is a possibility that they did ingest some gold, very minute particles. But yeah, there is a suggestion that that is the case, but obviously not every bit of gold. Scrolling down, you got to remember that they needed the gold for their atmosphere. I mean, even the Bible says, "And God saw that the gold was good." Bearing in mind the Anunnaki's race name is Dingir, so when they came over to Earth and they saw that the gold was good, it was when Alula said, "The gold's good, we can come and mine here." So that's what that was referring to. But obviously, religious people think, "Oh, God liked gold." Well, he should have known it was good. He freaking created a planet. Oh yeah. So yeah. Darwin's wrote, "Are abductions still happening? They have not reached their goals after so long." I think they. Yeah, I've said a couple of years ago. I said I think they've reached. I think they've done it. I think they've got to the point of putting the hybrids back here on Earth. Since then, I've heard, what's her name, Linda Moulton Howe, say that they have now put the hybrids here on Earth. I've also heard from people that say that they worked as handlers for these hybrids and so on. So yeah, I think they have. I think there's now hybrids here being put on Earth. For what purpose? Some people say, "Oh, it's a good purpose." Some people say it's a bad purpose. Let's be honest. If we went over to another planet and we started putting people on, regardless of whether they were hybrids of them and us, if we was putting people on another planet, we're doing it for a reason. And it's not a good reason for the people of that planet. It's a good reason for us. So if we look at it from that perspective, supposedly the greys and so on can't stand our atmosphere, but having hybrids can. So if you look at it from that, you can say, well, maybe they are terraforming the planet in such a way, with the chemtrails, etc., terraforming it so that it's more susceptible for the aliens than it is for us, which is what I've heard, which makes sense to me, because you don't create a species just to leave them on a planet. There's no point. What's the point of doing that for probably generations and generations, thousands of years, manipulating a particular bloodline, a family, finally creating having these people have babies, taking the babies, finally getting a hybrid, saying, "Oh well, there we go. You can go and watch Avatar at the cinema on Earth. There you go. Enjoy yourself." They're not doing it for that. They're not doing it for us. They're certainly not doing it for us, because sticking more people on this planet means more food, more pollution, more this, more that, depending on how many people they put. They're not doing it for our benefit, because really they could have just took out the you-know-whos and helped us, but they're not. So it does seem like there's a nefarious agenda from those people, in my opinion. Zetas no, but Orions, or that tall whites I can't trust. Anime is wrote, was Enoch known as Thoth? No, Enoch. There's a couple of Enochs, but you're referring to the great grandson. I think it's great grandson of Noah. In that particular Enoch, no, He wasn't known as Thoth. Thoth was an Anunnaki. Enoch was a descendant of Noah. Cotswolds wrote, were you amazed at how many stone circles Tellinger said? In South Africa, 10 million. If for power, that's a lot of mining. No, I wasn't. I've known he said that before, so that wasn't that didn't come as a shock to me. He has said that before and other things, but when he said about the mining, obviously it's not. Personally, I don't think there was mining and stone circles, which I've already said, and I've even done a video on Stonehenge. I was the one that solved that. I was the one that pointed out that where there's a stone circle, there's normally a mine. In fact, I've had people come on these live chats saying, I live near a stone circle. I said, well, go and look. And they come back while I was still on the live chat. And I said, you're right. There is an old ancient flint mine or a stone mine or whatever mine it was. So I was right. So Michael Tellinger's obviously come to that same conclusion, that it's, the stone circles equal mining, but it's not to do with the power for the mining. It's the stone circles was power. Now, whether or not that same stone circles is to do with the power for weather manipulation or global climate change, I don't know. I'm going to need to look into that when I'm doing my pyramid solved video. Pyramids, yes. Whether or not the stone circles, because you've got to wonder why you have two different types, why you have stone circles and pyramids. So there seems to be a difference there. So I will look into that. Sorry, yawning. Oh, sorry. So yeah. So I don't think it's I don't think they was using the power to have torches down in the mines. I think they was using the power for weather manipulation. Now, whether those two were different times, whether the stone circles predate the pyramids or whether they came after the pyramids or whether at the same time, something I'll be looking into when I'm doing my Great Pyramid video. So it's a really good point. Got number 3 in the class for that. I like Michael Tellinger. He's useless on the Anunnaki. He doesn't know, but he's great on the stones. I've always said that. Astrals wrote, what happens when they do that? Was it? What happened when they do that? Was it? I'm slightly behind. I'm so sorry, Astral. I don't know what that's referring to. I'm just going to scroll back and see whether or not it was to do with another previous message. Trying to find your previous message. Thank you. I did message you. Oh, right. Okay. So that was to do with the orbs or the lights. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what that one's referring to. Bella's wrote, what is the other account you will be on Sunday? So it's the Our True History Backup. If you look for the one that's called Our True History Backup, if you can subscribe to that, cool. I want to see if we can get past this 30 odd mark, which clearly we're at. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Thank you for that. Scrolling down, this is live. I'll read every single question. Canucks just wrote Casper, Melachiah, and Baus. I've never even needed to pronounce that. Balthazar was meant to be the 3 magi: Europe, Africa, and Europe, Asia, Africa. So says Google. I haven't looked into that. So I can't answer that. If you want me to look into it, let me know in the background and I'll add it to my list of things that I research, but I've not looked, so I can't answer. I can't say whether Google's right or not. Sorry. Tell Marie has wrote, the wise men were Zoroastrianism. Persia, Jesus was predicted to be born in their religion. No, see, unfortunately, if you watch my amazing documentary on why Jesus was created, you'll see that a lot of these predictions are actually retrospective. They're actually done after Jesus was born to fit their narrative to try and persuade people that that's what they want. Um, so I don't know if that's of any interest to you, but no, unfortunately, that's not how it worked. Religious people obviously, you know, lap that stuff up now, but no, it's not. It's not actually how it worked. If you watch my documentary, you'll see that I go through all the predictions, believe it or not, in that book, in that documentary. And the reason why I do that is because I needed to work out why Jesus was created. So when you realise that a lot of those, virtually all of them, um, there's only about three predictions that were actually done before he was born that were actually correct, proper predictions, and there was other predictions that before he was born that didn't even come true. So again, I go through the whole lot in my amazing documentary, but you don't follow me, so I'm guessing you probably won't watch my documentary on that. Um, so yeah, so that when you say the wise men was Zoroaster, I probably would say no to that. Um, but until I've done my research on who those three wise men are, once I've done my research, when I do these deep dives, I think that's it. I think it's solved one way or another. And if I don't get the answer, then don't think anyone will ever get the answer. And I know it sounds so big-headed, but just go watch one of my documentaries and you'll see why I say that. It does sound big-headed. I know it does. Well, let's be honest, it is big-headed, but put the work in. Shabazz is right, exactly. I'm not sure what that was referring to. That was for something else, I think, not for me being big-headed. Shabazz has wrote, "We love our true history." Oh, thank you very much. Oh, even with my big head, thank you, Shabazz. Bless you. Benjamin's wrote, "The oldest Testament stories about the gods is 80% Enlil and 20% mix between Enki and Marduk." Well, obviously, the monotheistic god, the one true god, is Marduk. So that's um, when you say 80% Enlil and 20%. No, it's not actually. I did do I can't remember. It was, I think it was a live chat where I said it was about 80% Enlil. Jehovah was Enlil. So when you realise that a lot of it is Jehovah, um, it's until you get to Yahweh, it's Enki. So unfortunately, from my research, it's mostly talking about that. I think Enlil only pops in once or twice, really, in the big scheme of things. When I say once or twice, I'm on about a handful of times. Most of it, most of the, well, all of the old stuff is to do with Jehovah, um, and then the modern stuff where Jesus is around and Yahweh is Marduk. So it's really just those two. Enlil's just very very briefly ever mentioned in the Bible. Sorry, you did say about the Old Testament. So let's go back to the Old Testament. Yeah, no, the Old Testament was Jehovah, which was classed the Lord, depending on who translates it, which would have been Enki as the Great Lord. So yeah, unfortunately, that's not how my research has pulled it out. Benjamin then wrote, "Does that resonate?" No, it's the other way around. Honestly, it's Jehovah is. If you haven't seen my documentary on who Jehovah was, feel free to watch that, and you'll see it was Enki. And so when you realise how the words were in the Bible for Enki, for Jehovah, because a lot of the translations don't even put Enki. Sorry, don't even put Jehovah. They just put the Lord. So you have to break that back down and go back to the original wording, etc. And you find that it's not Yahweh. It's not even freaking Adonai. That's all frustratingly added later. Shabazz has wrote exactly. Canucks has wrote, "Dr. Benjamin Simon hypnotized Betty Hill." Thank you. If that's the name, yeah, thank you. I couldn't remember who it was, but yeah, he wasn't some sort of crackpot. He was actually quite a well-known person. Thank you, Canucks. Get a gold star for that, because if I give out gold stars when I kind of know who it was, but I've forgotten something. And so if someone gives me the name, then I give them a gold star because it means that they've done their homework, and I like that. Benjamin's wrote, there was a Roswell crash in June 18, and then early on the morning, July the 4th. Yeah, that's what I say. They say there was two, but I mean, I'm still on the fence. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm still on the fence on that. I do struggle with the second one, but I might be wrong. There may have been two, but obviously we all were aware of the July the 4th one. Yeah, correct. That's right. It was July the 4th. Benjamin's wrote, Crash July 4th created Majestic 12 Group as a direct response with executive order. Well, technically, it wasn't a direct response. So the when it's, I mean, so basically the way it worked was the bodies etc. got shipped off to Patterson, the Air Force base, and then they didn't know what to do with it. So that's when they started to create this Area 51. And then when Eisenhower found out about Area 51, that's when he created the MJ12 group. So technically, it wasn't direct, as you say, directly. Forgive me, I know it sounds like I'm being pedantic. I'm not. This is how I work. I have to be very thorough. So technically, it wasn't directly because it was, some time that had passed, but it was really a result of. So from that point of view, correct. It was a result of the Roswell crash and possibly the other one, if there was one, that created the Area 51, that created the secrecy, that created that Eisenhower found out, and then created the Area MJ12 people to go and liaise between Area 51 and him, and of course, well, you know the rest of the story. Diaz wrote, what did the Anunnaki think of the Orion or Zetas? Thank you, Real Truth. I hope you're well, Real Truth. What did the Anunnaki? So, we don't have evidence per se that they knew of the Zetas or the Orions. What we do have is the Anunnaki creating humans with elongated skulls. Now, the Anunnaki didn't have elongated skulls, but thank you, Real Truth. But at least what we know of as the Mexican mummies and the Nazca mummies did have elongated skulls. That's not to say that the Orions and the Zetas don't have elongated skulls, but we don't have any ancient evidence, 100% evidence that they were here. But we do have the Nazca mummy, which is the three-fingered and three-toed aliens, the ones with one of them has baby's eggs inside her, so they're not fake. And then we have the little 1 foot ones, which was found a couple of years now ago, and they're classed as the Mexican mummies. Both of those mummies or aliens have elongated skulls, and they have been dated to at least about 6,000 years ago. Some dates go back to 10, but let's go with 6. So if we had 6,000 years ago, then we can say, okay, were they around at the same time as the Anunnaki? Yes. Do we have any evidence that the Anunnaki would have dealt with elongated skulled people through Egyptian? Obviously, there's loads of elongated skulls found in Iraq, Iran, etc. So we know that they had elongated skulls around there. But when you have the Isis, which would have been Marduk's great-granddaughter, holding an elongated skulled baby, saying this is the first we've created, some words to the effect of we created the first of its kind, then you realise, hang on a minute, humans were already around prior to that, and if the Anunnaki are not the ones that were created the first of its kind, because the Anunnaki created us, so we can rule out the Anunnaki, it leaves another alien species such as those Mexican mummies or the Nazca mummies. Again, not necessarily to say that it wasn't the Zetas or the Orions, but it does seem that the Anunnaki used genetics from an alien race with elongated skulls to create a new human type with the natural elongated skull without the missing sutras, etc. And then they put those new people in positions of power, which clearly means they were smarter than the rest of us. In fact, if you watch my video on the Midas touch, you'll see that even King Midas' father had an elongated skull. So when you say what did the Anunnaki think of them, I do believe the Anunnaki used alien genetics to create another hybrid species. Whether or not they dealt with the Zetas, I can't say because I don't have any evidence of it. My gut feeling is yes. I mean, the Zetas apparently have been, here for probably 5,000 years, if not more. So that would make sense. They probably would have bumped into the Anunnaki. I mean, if the Anunnaki had the ships in the space and had the technology probably to detect UFOs, then they'd probably come across them and probably dealt with them. And I mean, if you go back to the Norse stories, where you got to remember the Norse were the same Anunnaki, where they got the dwarfs to build them equipment, guns and whatnot, and technology, and the hammer and all that kind of stuff. When you realise that those dwarfs probably were alien greys, whatever type, then you think, okay, because obviously, they didn't call us dwarfs, the Norse gods. So someone was smaller, and of course, even if we had dwarfs, which we did back then, people did have dwarfism. Those dwarfs, human dwarfs, wouldn't have the knowledge to be able to build something for the Anunnaki to use. There's no way. It had to have been a race that was as smart, if not smarter than the Anunnaki, for the Anunnaki to have used them to build this, whatever it is that they would have used, the hammer, for example, of some description. So, yes, I do believe they did come across I haven't got any evidence, but I do believe they would have come across one of the greys and probably done deals with them. Probably allowed them to same as what Eisenhower's done, probably did a treaty with the greys and said, look, you can take as many humans as you want. We probably had, Christ knows how many people been abducted in return for technology, which is exactly what Eisenhower done. I'm not saying that's what the Norse gods did or the Anunnaki did, but it would make sense. Daharamas, thank you, Real Truth. Daharamas wrote, aliens aren't abducting the warmongers, though, although they are preaching. Thank you, Real Truth. You don't have to, Real Truth. I do this because I enjoy it, but thank you very much. Oh, bless. Daharamas wrote, aliens aren't abducting the warmongers, although they preaching protect the earth and peace. Crazy. Yeah, I mean, again, it mind boggles, doesn't it? But you could argue that, maybe they already done a deal with the Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki is the one that wants us depopulated. I mean, they did it once, and they also said the reason why they gave us the RH negative was to keep our population low. So maybe the other aliens are, abiding by the Anunnaki's rules for our planet. So, but yeah, I mean, there's probably two sides to everything. I agree with you, but from our point of view, it sucks. But from everyone else's point of view, it makes sense, I guess. Thank you, JT. Jane's 9:30. Thank you, Jane. Goddess Jane. See, I haven't forgotten, have I? Goddess. I always call you Goddess. Diaz wrote, why would Zeta want to abduct us? Genetics. So if you go with the story from Project Serpo, from the people that came back, on Serpo, all they were doing mainly was taking creatures from planets around the solar system, around the universe, and genetically changing them and creating different bits, taking just genetics, really. I guess when you're so advanced, there's not a lot else to do. Do you know what I mean? There's so genetics, according to the people that came back from Project Serpo, It was just everything was genetics. So that's why they would abduct us for genetics. Sono's wrote, hi Sono, nice of you to join. Canuccia, does the concept of good and evil in people come from different or opposing bloodlines, in your opinion? Hopefully you heard me earlier. I do think good and evil. I mean, evil's subjective in some ways because what's evil to me, is normal for people that, like for example, Eskimos. Killing fish, killing seals, is evil to me. It's, that's, but to them, it's not evil. They may be sad, but it's not evil to them. But to me, it's like, how the hell can you do that? Why would you do that to the poor little seals? So, evil is a bit, is depending where you're from, is but would, going back to your sort of the main point about your bloodlines, well, if we look at the Anunnaki, they did, I don't know if you listened to or read the Epic of Error, where Nurgle just decides to basically destroy people for no reason whatsoever. Completely mental case. So the Anunnaki were mental as well as being smart, as well as being kind. Certainly kind to themselves, not necessarily always kind to us. So, to an alien race looking at us putting animals in pens, chickens, chicken farms, all that kind of stuff, what would they say? Would they say that we're evil? So it's a tricky one to know. But I don't think, personally, I don't think the bloodlines have anything to do with it, because the Anunnaki did have all the same traits as us. Greed is a huge, huge, mind changer. You can, if you've got greed in your heart, then evil is a necessity to do what you want. I mean, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab's, but yeah. So when you've got greed, that also doesn't help. So yeah, I wouldn't say bloodlines personally. Scrolling down, Sonos wrote, Juan, got questions I requested. Duane, got questions I requested. Not sure what that's referring to. There is a woman that pretends to channel called Duane something. I don't know if that's what you're referring to. Sonos wrote, it's like Illuminati is made up, and if it is real, we would not know about it. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Unfortunately, though, people do, loose tongues sink ships. So that when you're drunk, many times, loose slops. But the Illuminati, well, they broke off from the Masons in 1776. So it could have been a Mason that didn't like the Illuminati that said, "Oh, those bloody bunch of Illuminatis, they split from us years and years ago." So all it takes is one person to tell us, and then we can sort of follow the breadcrumbs, if there is any, and work out that yes, there probably is a secret society called the Illuminati. I mean, there's enough evidence, I think, out there to point to that there is an Illuminati. I mean, the dollar bill's got 1776 on it, and it's got the pyramid, and it's got the all-seeing eye and all that kind of stuff. So there's enough, I think, personally, from my research, I think there's enough evidence. And there's not just the Masons, and then you've got the Bilderberg group, you've got so many other secret societies, and then you've got societies with secrets that are not hidden. So it's I think the Illuminati are definitely real. Animes wrote, do you reckon Anunnaki use Bigfoot and Hayton's genetics and mixed to create humans? Interesting question. I don't, but it's an interesting question. I don't even know if the Anunnaki ever come across the Bigfoots personally. When you look at where the Bigfoots were, America, Russia, China, Himalayas, compared to Anunnaki, there's only one Anunnaki that we're aware of that went over to Mesoamerica, and that would have been Thoth. So the chances that he's bumped into a Bigfoot is probably slim. So unless he's got like technology on his craft that he was looking for people, or, like thermal or something like that. But so we don't even know if they did. Obviously, humans were created by the Anunnaki. They tell us how they did it. They tell us they took organic material off, and they do tell us this. It's called clay, but you can translate it to organic material. So when it says nip off the clay on the top of Abzu, Abzu is Africa, and when the top of Africa is Levant, which is exactly where Neanderthal were. We've got Neanderthal DNA in us. And in fact, in my latest book, I've added some more bits about the DNA of us humans with being 100% all Neanderthal, because there's some talk that we don't, only certain 92% of us have Neanderthal DNA in us. And so I thought, no, I'm not having that, because that means they would have had to have gone around every single person, every single tribe, and checked to see whether you have Neanderthal DNA in us. Turns out they didn't do that. They guessed. I was like, excuse my language, but I don't like being told that we've got 92% or 93% or 95% when no one's checked 100% of the people. I don't like that. And they haven't come across anyone that didn't have it. They thought that African people didn't have it until Princeton University's done now 2 peer-reviewed new tests where it turns out African people do have Neanderthal DNA. So in other words, 100% of people have Neanderthal DNA. No more of this crap where they say 92%. Google says 92%. Whoa. Sorry, I get very frustrated when things lie. So yes, we all got Neanderthal DNA. So don't ever let anyone tell you different. Going back to your question about creating humans. Yeah, so technically Homo sapiens is a subspecies of human. Human is an umbrella term for the hominids. So the Anunnaki created the Homo sapiens 300,000 years ago using Neanderthal. We've all got Neanderthal freaking DNA in us. And that makes sense because the Anunnaki used Neanderthal to create the Homo sapien. So yeah, I'm not sure if they ever come across the Bigfoots. I hear what you're saying with the other creatures as well. I think it's spelt G. I'm not sure if that's the same ones you're referring to, the Gantians, which were the if you look in history books, they were a warlike race. But if you go by the tablet that Enki talks about, he said that they were like what are they? Something with canine features, monkey features, something like this. Monkey features, but canine instinct, and we're as smart as humans. Translation from to humans, which would have probably been Adamus. So yeah, these creatures that were. So I did a video actually called "The Real Planet Apes," Planet of Apes, because technically they were apes and they were smart. It's just obviously we probably outbred them and was probably taught, given weapons by the Anunnaki, and ended up defeating them and making them extinct, which we've probably done to a lot of creatures, unfortunately. Bella's wrote, I remember when they were nearly 200 in the live. Yeah, they were good times, weren't they? But as you can see, 30. It's ridiculous now. But yeah, they were good. I loved it when those, even though I'd go on for hours and hours, but I did love it because we had all sorts of people. We had religious people, we had basically, I enjoyed the numpties where they would say something, and then I would say, and even the moderators would say, "Show us the evidence," and of course they run because they didn't have it, and so I enjoyed those days. I might go back and listen to one of my old live recordings. But yeah, no, it was good. You've been around a while then, Bella. Bless you. Dharma's wrote 67. I can see 32 at the moment. Obviously, you wrote that earlier, but I don't know about you guys, but right now I can see 33. So I don't know whether TikTok's lying to me and there really is 67 in the group chat, or whether we did have 67 earlier on and now it's gone back down to 33, which is what happens because they boot people out. Sonos wrote New World Order. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, the Georgia Guidestones, the presidents have said it. There is a New World Order, and we all know what that's coming. It's basically one religion, and you can probably guess which religion that is. One currency, one world government, blah blah blah. Yeah, unfortunate it's coming. Anime, I'd rather be back in World War One. I know it sounds horrible, World War One, World War Two, because you knew who your enemy was. They was wearing uniforms. You knew who's good guys, who was bad guys. Now we've got aeroplanes flying over, killing us in the pretense that we're helping. Animes wrote the Secret Gospel of John. It clarifies the devil in his demons created human, similar to Dingir creation. I would need to reread that. It's been a while since I've read that. The Secret of Gospel of John. I haven't got that far yet in my rewriting of the Bible. As wrote, it clarifies the devil and his demons. Yeah, that's obviously demons is a name for someone evil. Created human. The problem with that is whoever's writing that obviously didn't have an understanding of what was done. So, but yeah, I mean, Enki and Nimna, we've got the tablet that predates the Bible. So Enki and Nimna were the two, dare I say it, demons, but they obviously wasn't demons. Anime's right. He was the god in Genesis. Who created humans? Jehovah would have been the god in Genesis that created humans. Yes, which would have been Enki. Canucks wrote the three magi were meant to be the wise men or three kings that went to his birth. Yeah, I'd be interested because obviously you've got Gilgamesh was a king, so we know that demigods could be kings, and we also know that King Solomon, his father, had an elongated skull, so we know that the hybrid elongated skulled humans can also be kings. So that's why I say I'd need to look properly at everything to try and work out who they would have been, the three kings. Dioramas wrote they only rolled a 12 on their dice of persuasion. I have a feeling that's to do with something else that we might have spoken about earlier. I can't remember. Sorry. But there's more. Hang on. Dioramas wrote those with high wisdom and intelligence see through it. I can't remember what that was for. I'm so sorry. Sounds very intelligent. I'm gutted that I don't know what that's referring to. Sorry. Hopefully everyone else grasped it. Cotswolds Clarkies wrote, I did find it interesting that Tellinger had a link with the circle and health benefits. I believe there is something in that, and I feel benefit. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the crop circles as well, they also supposedly heal people. So, yeah, I mean, there probably is something to it. Being cured of cancer is that because of sound vibrations? Is it because of a microwave energy? Is it because of electrostatic, electromagnetic, whatever reason? yeah, he comes out with the resonance frequency of humans, but every body part is different, has a different density, has a different resonance frequency. So I think he's not 100% accurate on that. I love Michael Tellinger, but obviously, yeah, still, like a bridge can have a resonance frequency because it's all made out of one material still, or iron. But obviously, a body has all sorts of, bones will be a different frequency to muscle, which will be a different frequency probably to the skin and so on. So I don't agree with him on that. But obviously, if people are being healed, then yes, some sort of phenomena is happening. It would be nice to work out what it is because hospitals could just, have a chamber where people go and sit in for 2 hours. But of course, as he said, Michael Tellinger, as he said in that interview, he used to be a pharmacist, and he said all I ever got taught was how to sell the drugs for the big pharma companies. That's what he was. That's what he was. So a pharmacist isn't someone trying to help you; it's someone, a salesman, is what he said. And it's really sad to hear someone that was trained as a pharmacist that he knows that it's a scam. It's, which it is, because if you a cured patient is a patient lost. They want to keep you, and that money keeps coming rolling in. It's very sad, but true. Jane has wrote Goddess Jane has wrote time check 10 p.m. Thank you, Goddess Jane. Wow. Thank God it's Saturday. I can sleep in the morning. Real Truth has wrote, hey host, hope you're well. Not too bad, thank you, and hope you're well as well. Bless you. Cotswolds wrote, would it be logical? Is Spock? Would it be logical to think the inner sanctum in churches where only priest goes is where they talk to Anunnaki? It's a fair question. Go number one in the class for that. It's a very fair question. Obviously, back in the day before they had churches, they had the tabernacle, which is where they went to talk to God. So, did they have a device in there? Was it a crystal device? Because obviously, we know crystals can create. You can create a radio transmitter and receiver with just a particular crystal without even a battery. So, did they do that? It's a good question. I can't answer for sure. I would need to look into it, but it is a very logical question. Cotswolds, go number one in the class for that. Well done. Can't answer it without doing a deep dive, but it's a very good. I mean, it's either that or they stored stuff in there that no one else should know about. But you could be right. I mean, the whole point of churches, in my opinion, and cathedrals, etc., was to, in my opinion, I might be completely wrong. It wasn't necessarily to get the locals there to sit and preach. Obviously, yes, to a certain degree, but I think they were built as a way of communicating with the gods. With the shape of the churches and cathedrals, etc. I think, and especially with they possibly used to have crystals on the top. So I think a message would have came out and would have reverberated around the building, and everyone would have heard the voice of God. And I think that's probably what happened. But over time, obviously, the Anunnaki don't do that anymore, and so they buggered off. But yeah, that's what I think happens. I'm doing a documentary on bells, so I'll see if there's any connection to that as well. Real Truth was wrote, L'Oreal, you're worth it, host. Thank you very much. It's because I'm worth it. I don't have long locks like some of those people that's on those that works for L'Oreal. Oh dear, I did have a ponytail once, but that was me being stupid when I was about 22. Don't ask. I just never got my hair cut, and I thought, I wonder what it would be like just to turn it into a ponytail. Because back then there was yuppies and stuff. Yeah, what an idiot. I won't do that again in a hurry. At least I admit I'm an idiot. Cotswolds right. I wonder if Anunnaki gave the Norse anything to help them get to North America. Um, Not sure why you said that, because obviously Scandinavia is across the ocean from America. So, and of course, if you watch my documentary, you'll see that from my perspective, the two main older gods were were Inanna and Utu, and then the younger gods, which you've got the young Odin, not the old Odin, the young Odin, Thor, and so on. They were the younger Igigi that went over with Inanna. So they would have already, if I'm right, they would have already had anything they need from the Anunnaki to get to anywhere they wanted to. So I think the only record that I can find, all of the Teotihuacan, Quetzalcoatl, all those all end up being Thoth. So the only records I can find of any Anunnaki in Americas is Thoth, Ningzida. Never found anyone else. No moon gods or anything like that I could definitely say was one of the Anunnakis. D wrote, what do the Nordics or Palladians etc. want with us? I struggle with the Nordics. I have a feeling people have said there's a Nordic race because they're blonde, blue eyes, beard. Guess what the Anunnaki look like? Blonde, blue eyes, beard. Guess what supposedly the Palladians look like? Blonde, blue eyes, sometimes beard. So I think because people associated the Norse gods with sort of that look, that people. Thank you, Sherry. I think I might be wrong, but I think people have associated another race and called them Nordics, because the whole reason why they call them Nordics is because they said that they look like the Norse gods. But there's no, the Pleiadians come from the Pleiades star system. The Dracos come from the Draconis star system. The Zetas come from the Zeta Reticuli star system. The Orions come from the Orion star system. The Nordics, yeah, there's no Nordic star system. So I think that I don't think there is a Nordic race personally. I think people may have just mixed them up with another, because all they've done is called them Nordics because of what they look like, not because of that they know that they're from a particular star system or another alien race. So anyway, going back to your question, so we can sort of address just the Palladians really on that. Again, we don't have 100% evidence of Palladians, but we've got a lot of people talking about Palladians. So if we believe that the Palladians are real, what do they want with us? Well, according to the people that supposedly have had communication with the Palladians, and we can forget Billy Meyer, he may have seen a UFO once. I believe he probably did, maybe a couple of times. But all the other stuff that he's done is just all baloney, and that's been proven fake. Feel free to watch my video on Billy Meyer. But going back to the Palladians, generally everyone that's ever spoken about the Palladians, whether that's a whistleblower, whether that's people in dreams, out of bodies, but you name it, anyone that's ever spoken about the Palladians all say that the Palladians want us to evolve, want us to be harmonized with the planet, basically as good as you can get. So, which is a nice thought that someone's out there trying to make us. So supposedly they try and change our thought patterns while we're asleep, which is really nice of them. I mean, let's be honest, a bit futile, really, because it's even if they manage to change my thought pattern, there's not a lot I can do. I can't go over to um, NATO or the military and say stop flying these planes that's killing us with the crap that's coming out of the chemtrails. So it's a bit futile, really, if that is the case. But yes, so they want to help us. They don't want genetics. They want to help us if Palladians are real. Diaz wrote, is it only Zetas working with the Anunnaki, or maybe Mantis Nordic as well? I don't know. All I can say is I believe they come across an alien race in our past, not way back, not hundreds of thousands of years, but anywhere up to 10,000 years ago, and they used their genetics. That's all I can really tell you. And as I mentioned earlier about the Norse with um, the dwarfs, they probably used them for help in terms of technology. But that's all I can tell you. There's nothing. There's no tablets or anything that sort of says, "Oh, star people" or anything like that, other than themselves, that I've ever come across. So I do believe they were aware of them, but and they probably dealt with them, but I can't say it for sure. JT is right. Have you done any research on Asriel? I haven't. Wasn't he the cat for Gargamel in Smurfs? So, wow, Asriel. Sorry, I couldn't resist that one. Oh, Papa Smurf. Um, so I'll shut up now. No, I haven't, I'm afraid. Sorry. But if you want me to, just drop me a message in the background on the DM and I will add it to my list of things that I'm looking through. Cotsworth wrote, that Nurgle was a nasty piece of work. Epic of Era, pretty scary stuff. Were 7 warriors the same as 7 weapons personified? Well, technically no. Technically no. So if we believe the Moorhen translations, then the seven weapons that they used was to try and kill Marduk. Whereas the Epic of Era, I'm glad you listened to it or read it. Fascinating story. For those of you who don't know, there's a tablet called Epic of Era. I converted it into an audio format. If anyone wants to listen to it, you can get to it from my Patreon page, or just type in Epic of Era. Era is Nurgle, so some of the names are different names because this is more newer. This is we're talking 3000 BC coming towards sort of I guess 1000 AD. So about 400 years, 4,000 years, somewhere in that range. My guess is. But Nurgle or Era, when you look at his past, he's the brother of Marduk. He's the one that wanted to help Ninurta kill Marduk. So his brother wanted to kill Marduk. Nurgle is the god of the underworld, so you may know him as the devil. He's the one with the 3-headed dog. We've got a carving of him with a 3-headed dog. The things he's done that I've read, the guy's a nutter. Hopefully he's not listening. Absolute no compassion whatsoever. None. And so the Epic of Era is talking about another one of these stories about Nurgle being stupid. And he decides, for no reason whatsoever, I mean, you could read into it and say there's a reason, but let's be honest, there's no reason other than he felt like he needed to do it. And he took his craft, flew, and bombed people to pieces, cities and everything. And then I think, forgive me, it's been a while now, but like the next day even Marduk said to him, "Stop, don't attack," and he didn't listen. And then Cotswolds probably remembers it better than me. Probably read it or listened to it recently. But after a while, if it wasn't for Nurgle's aide, vizier or right hand man, whatever you want to call him, finally persuading him to stop, people, I mean, literally, imagine London just being decimated because Nurgle decided it for no reason. That's the kind of person he was. But what Cotswold was asking is it the same 7 weapons that's in, for example, the Book of Revelation? Funny enough, which is the same 7 weapons that the Moorhen translations talk about, where Marduk was being chased down. So these would have been technically 7 different weapons. Now we could say that the Moorhens translated it wrong, and it could actually be this same Epic of Era, and they may not have even knew of the Epic of Era. So you could argue that, which is a fair point to argue. But there is so much detail in the Moorhen translations about how they named the 7 weapons and how they had to wait for Enlil to give the command, and Nurgle was in one of the craft, etc., etc. So I don't think those weapons were the same, because when you listen to the story of the Book of Revelation stroke the Moorhen translations versus Epic of Error, one of those ones where the wind changed and basically decimated people was in the Bible. So that is a huge one, whereas the Epic of Error didn't mention that there was a problem and that the Anunnaki had to actually leave because the nuclear fallout came back, the radiation was coming back their way. So I would, the Bible talks about the blood from their eyes, and everything tasted bitter, and water and everything, basically radiation. So I would say they are 2 different things, which means Nurgle had a craft with severe weapons on it still, for some reason or other. I don't know who let him play with them, but yeah, he's clearly a nutter. JT has wrote, Enki would have had a field day with Sasquatch DNA in his splicing experiments. You're absolutely right. Yes, I mean we would look at Bigfoot and think that he's already been spliced to create Bigfoot, but obviously the Anunnaki were taller than Bigfoot, but if you wanted a creature that's intelligent, big, strong, obviously hairy, and you want to manipulate the DNA of that, then but I mean, technically they already had themselves. They were big, taller than Bigfoot even. But yeah, no, they would have had a field day. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, get gold star for that. Hart has wrote, have you visited the question of the identity of Baal in your Discord videos? Can you say which? Yeah, so Baal was a Canaanite. I have, yeah. So, Phil, I mean, I can tell you now if you're interested, but yeah, it's a Patreon page, not a Discord. But Baal was a Canaanite god, and I am now trying to think who it was. I can't remember. I'm getting mixed up here with Nimrod. So Nimrod was Marduk from my research. It's the only one it could have been. Absolutely the only one it could have been. So Nimrod was Marduk. Baal was a Canaanite god. I can't remember what the conclusion was. I have done a video. It was, I can't remember. I'm getting mixed up with other names. Forgive me. Oh God, how can I not remember? I've even said the answer on other lives. If anyone can help me out, what I've said in the past about Baal, he was a Canaanite god, and I can't remember if it was someone that was just. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. Yes, I have done a video. No, I can't remember. Oh man, that's embarrassing. I apologise. Just to give you some context, I do have a day job which I have to remember stuff for as well. So to try and remember everything, I'm sorry. If you want, I'll follow you back. I'll send you the. Oh, you don't even follow me. I was going to say I'll send you the video if you're interested. I can't remember. I cannot remember. I know he wasn't someone famous. He may have been. I think I can't remember. I might have narrowed him down to Nurgle or Ninurta. I can't remember. I apologise. Sorry. I feel stupid now. Animes wrote, black people don't suffer from hypertrichosis. I probably pronounced that wrong. but why does every other culture suffer with hypercoriosis? I don't know what that is, so I can't answer it properly. Um, if you look at it from the perspective that the black people were the original Homo sapiens, so if we go back to those, not every Anunnaki and not every Homo sapien bred with those. So basically, black people, there are still Homo sapiens here on this planet. There's no way that every single Homo sapien, in other words, an offspring of Anunnaki and human, there is no way that every single one of them went round and had kids with a Homo sapien. So there are Homo sapiens here. So that could be part of the answer. I don't know what the medical thing is. I apologise, but I'm just throwing out one possibility that I'm not saying every single black person is now a Homo sapien still, but certainly there are Homo sapiens out there. But I would need to know what the medical thing is and how many people have it. If you say black people don't suffer, I'd need to know exactly whether you say every single black person or only certain black people, because if it's only certain black people, then it might be because they're Homo sapiens. If it's every single black person on this planet, I mean, it's something that I'd need to look into to try and work it out. So I don't even know what that thing is. I'm sorry. Damn it, Jim! I'm not a doctor. The Cotswolds right. I still miss the numpties and the flat earthers. I know they were great, weren't they? When we asked them questions and they squirmed or they come back with rude answers. I loved it when they used to say, "I don't have to tell you." Like, they come on here, tell me I'm wrong. I asked them a question and they say, "I don't have to tell you," because they don't have the answer. Oh, bless those people. Cotswolds wrote to JT, "I wouldn't mess with a Wookiee," meaning Bigfoot type thing. Yeah, JT's wrote, "Beware of the numpties, Numpty Nation." Ah, we like the numpties. Darwin's wrote, "Were you Rodney?" What, in Only Fools and Horses? No, I wasn't Rodney. Um, you plonker, Rodney. No, I wasn't. If that's what you're referring to. My dad would have been more like Del Boy. My dad was a wheeler and dealer. Um, my dad, my mum told me something before she died. She was telling me a story about my dad, and I didn't know this. And I knew he was a wheeler dealer, but he was like half a daily from Minder, and he'd over the road there was some dodgy people, and he bought a coat. He knew them, and my dad was a builder, and they were builders. But he bought a coat off of them, and he was walking back, and someone pulled up. A car pulled up, and said, "Oh, that's a nice coat, like fur coat or something." And my dad goes, "Yeah, it is, isn't it?" He goes, "Where did you get that from?" He goes, "Oh, those people over there." Turns out it was a bloody plainclothes police officer looking for someone that's just stole a whole fan full of fur coats. And so the people over the road obviously got arrested, and then I can't remember my mum said something like they tried to set our house on fire. I was only young, obviously, very young kid. They tried to set our house on fire, so they were complete nutters. And then um, when one of the boys grew up, he beat his dad up so bad that there's blood all over the walls and everything else. They were a mental family. They were like seriously something wrong with them. It wasn't just stupid. It was, you could just tell looking at them. Um, anyway, and then turns out one day that same bloke got caught flashing kids, and ended up doing himself in. Right, old family. Um, anyway, Sherry's wrote hi, 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 and Sherry, ho, ho, ho. Oh, sorry. Hi, hi, hi. Hody, hody, hi. Welcome. Scrolling down, Sherry's wrote, "What happens if I touch one of these plus? What happens if I touch one of these plus? Question mark. You mean in the background? I have no idea. I've never done it myself. Probably nothing. Okay, so I've just brought up a list of viewers by touching the screen. So I don't know. Be interesting. Diaz wrote, what are Arcturians? Personally, it's a name that people's made up. Personally, I have never found any credible, absolutely credible, anything at all, other than people saying, "Oh, they're Arcturians." It's like people saying there's Andromedans. Literally, just pick a star system and just say that there's a freaking there's a Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse. Don't say it a third time. Betelgeuse. So yeah, no Arcturians. There's nothing to even come close to giving any evidence on it. I've looked. I mean, the closest you could probably say is an orb. That's about the closest you can say. Other than that, in terms of going back to who said what and why they would have talked about it, an orb. But other than that, there's no Arcturians I've ever come across. And I will ask anyone that ever. You've probably seen me. I do stitch videos when someone says, "Oh, the Arcturians did this. Could you show me the evidence, please?" They don't. It's just. So I would rather tell you the truth. I've never come across anything at all that has any validity in any shape or form. Not even a whisper of a credibility. Show the plus sign circles on his screen. Yeah, I think they're pictures. They're for when someone jumps in on the live chat, their face or their image will come up on that in a circle, like mine is at the moment. Or we could play noughts and crosses with the crosses. Sherry's right. I thought so. Well done. I have a neat Palladian story. If it wasn't 11 o'clock, I'm going to do a live tomorrow morning on my other channel. So if you're around in the morning UK time, look for Outro History Backup and come and let me know that you want to chat. Sherry's wrote a personal experience story. I would love to hear that. I'm so sorry. I've still got a few messages and I normally try and put Clark to bed at 10. Sherry's right. Okay, thank you, Kerry. So if you're around tomorrow morning, JT's right. I was wondering about the connection between the Epic of Error and Revelations as well after viewing. Yeah, no, so the Revelations does fit the 7 weapons of terror as opposed to the weapons of error, which is kind of weird because now you call it weapons of error and weapons of terror. It's not too dissimilar, is it? So I could see how. If it wasn't such a deep story, long story for the weapons of terror about, hunting Marduk and who was flying the craft and they were waiting and all that kind of stuff. If it was just literally, oh, they used weapons of terror, then I would have said, no, it's probably weapons of error. But because there's such a long story there, the chances that, and I've never caught out the Moorhen translation so far. So the chances are they were proper 2 lots of weapons. But yeah, it makes it interesting, doesn't it? Of course, just to clarify, Nurgle had 7 weapons also, and the 7 warriors were bloodthirsty henchmen or weapons personified. I would go with the second one, personally, weapons personified. I know it says he goes out with 7 weapons and stuff, and I don't think there's any 7 real characters, so yes, I think it's the weapons that whoever's translating it makes it sound like there were something alive, but they're not. Again, as you know, the Anunnaki always made things sound like they were alive. Hart has wrote excessive hair. Is it because I'm worth it? Sorry, come back to the old thing. Animes wrote hyper is a condition which people grow facial hair. Right, so that's why you said excessive hair. I thought it was because I was worth it. Oh, Heart, you've upset me now because I'm not worth it. Where it's a condition where people grow facial hair like Chewbacca. Ah, right. Yes, I've seen. There was a wolf boy once. I remember seeing a whole documentary on him where he grew hair. Um, growing hair all over the face. I would probably say that's to do with um, I mean, let's be honest. Black people are different to white people. I mean, they got curly hair to start with. So if we look at that, then there is something very deep down that doesn't allow them to have that hairy face, I guess. I'm not an expert, but that's just my. Yeah, it's best I can do, I'm afraid, on that one. Although Kerry's wrote, it's not limited to excessive facial hair, and every race can have it. Okay, so yeah, they were learning stuff. Cotswolds wrote, all right, Dave. Oh, Cotswold, why do you call me Dave? That's your name, isn't it? No, it's Rodney. Oh, so why do I keep calling you Dave? I don't know, Trigger. My name's Rodney. Stop calling me Dave. All right. Sorry, Dave. Darwin's wrote Rodney had a clip on Ponytail when him and Cassandra were taking a tin of sardines for a walk. I don't remember that one, but okay. That is another reason why I will never have a bloody. Can't believe I had a ponytail. Yeah, so that's not going to happen again. In fact, I had a haircut today. Scrolling down. Animes wrote black. I'm guessing that's replying back to Kerry. Kerry has been chatting about the hair. JT has wrote, on that note, there's a hulking black man with a magnificent braided beard at my chiropractor. Okay. Okay, hopefully he's not the one that does the chiropractic on you. Otherwise you might come out worse than you went in. Scrolling down, Funaki has wrote touch the plus and a guest request gets sent. Oh, is that right? Okay, I didn't. Okay, I've learned something new now. Thank you for that. I didn't know that. So that's an easy way, I guess, of people saying they want to jump in. Ah, right. Okay. When I touch it, I get a list of guests that's here. I'm guessing we ended up with the 30 as opposed to, or the 40 as opposed to 60 something. Yeah, we're limited to 30, around 30, so it is what it is. Scrolling down, I think I'm coming to the end now. Yes, I've come to the end. So I will be doing a live chat tomorrow morning. I don't know what time. Just at least I'll have a lie-in. Cotswolds wrote second, first. Oh, hang on. Second, first in class, 1/3. Happy with that, but must try harder. I'll sleep well tonight. Oh, didn't you get a gold star, or was that someone else? I don't remember. I deliberately try not to remember who I gave gold stars to or positions in this class because I don't want that to affect my judgment on their question. I know it sounds really sad. I'm very, very fair. And so if I knew that, for example, that I gave you 1 and 2, would I give you number 3 knowing that then you'll get 1, 2, and 3 in the class? Or so I try not to remember who I give the position to because I don't want it to affect my judgment because I might feel guilty and think, oh. So, yeah. So well done, though. That's all I can say is, but well done. Darwin's wrote, can you learn to be a medium, or should I ask one of your mods? I did not a deep dive, but I did look into whether or not people can be a medium. Supposedly, you can. But my gut feeling is this is just my gut feeling. I think personally, I think mediums, proper mediums, have maybe a larger pineal gland, for example, where they can communicate, or their disposition is such that they can, like me, for example, I couldn't meditate. I couldn't spend 2 minutes with my own thoughts without my main mind just going off. And so I think there's probably certain criteria that would make you a decent medium, but I don't think anyone can do it. For example, I don't think I can. I wouldn't want to, but even if I wanted to, the logic in my brain would be saying, "Hang on a minute, what happens if you want to go to the toilet? Are they knowing that there's spirits because you can talk to them? Are you going in the toilet and someone's standing there watching?" Do you know what I mean? My mind will just go along stupid train of thought. So, so I think personally, I think if people can do it, they need a certain disposition that won't stop them from adding stuff themselves, because it's totally possible that you could end up thinking, oh, an image just come into my head, but it's not from the spirit. It may be projecting an image in your head. So just my gut feeling. I think genuine ones are born with it as opposed to learning. I'm not saying you can't, but that's just my gut feeling. But yeah, ask anyone else. See what they say. Animes wrote another great stream, very informative. Oh, thank you very much. It depends on the questions, really. Yeah, it's all you guys really, without me. JT's wrote so the race specific affliction is debunked. I'm guessing that's to do with the facial hair, etc., that was being mentioned earlier. I don't know what the outcome was. I didn't read the outcome. Kevin's wrote, I saw a medium today. She was scarily accurate. I hadn't expected to see her. Really, did you? Did you record the conversation by any chance? Um, and was she recommended? I'm guessing when you said you didn't expect to see her, I'm not quite sure how normally you book them. So, unless you come across some woman that walked past you and said, "Oh, you're going to listen to a genius tonight," or something like that. Um, but no, it'd be interesting. No, there's some people out there that are desperate for phone numbers of mediums, or contact details for verified decent mediums. Because I mean, I spoke to so many over the years. Some were full of crap and some were good, but I've lost all their numbers now. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, if they were that good, um, keep hold of that number. Cotswold wrote, sorry, this is what Cotswold wrote. Sorry, two first, which is impressive, and one third. So I'll take that as 1, 2, and 3. I need a gold star for the full house. So still something to aim for. Well, I mean, technically it's not. It's not 1, 2, and 3. It's technically 2 1s and a 3. So, sorry, it's only to be fair to the other people, because if it was the other way round and you got 1, 2, 3, and then someone come along and said, "Oh, I got a 1, 1, and a 3," you'd be like, "Well, hang on a minute, that's not 1, 2, and 3." So the thing is with the questions in the class is they're specific to how good the questions are. So you obviously two good questions is number one in the class, but to get a second question, it has to be good, but not as bad as number 3, but not as good as number. So it is an art form. So, sorry, Cotswolds. To do what some of the other people do, I'm sure they do. They write down the questions so that next time I'm on, they just bombard me with all these questions. Darwin's wrote, great live. Thank you so much. Thank you, Darwin. Thank you for sticking with me. Kerry's wrote 11 p.m. Yeah, wow, caught up again. JT's wrote, they actually have a psychic fair around here. where you can meet and greet and get readings. Ah, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I went to a psychic fair once with an old girlfriend, and um, we didn't get a reading, but I ended up speaking, chatting to people. You know what I'm like. I think I was just finishing my first book. This was back in 2016 or before that, probably 2015. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, um, yeah, they still do them, do they? Interesting. The question obviously I went round and was saying, oh, is there a heaven? And of course, the ones that said yes, there's a heaven. I was like, bye. But there was one person that we spent a while chatting to that actually was talking about orbs and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, this one knows their stuff. But back then I didn't have TikTok, so I didn't think of keeping their details or anything like that, which is a shame. But maybe I should have, but I didn't think. JT's wrote, went to one with my mum and got a reading when I was a kid. Ah, and what did they say? Was that one accurate back then? Sorry. Anyone want two dogs? Do you know what? Do you know what, JT? The medium said you're going to have two dogs coming your way. I've got my daughter's bloody dogs. Kerry's wrote the 1, 2, 3 is an elite group. It is. It is. I guess. Yeah. I mean, because I don't know how many got 1, 2, 3. I know a couple of people have got 1 and 2 and 3. Cotswold wrote, after my dad died, two people I knew said a medium saw it would happen. They never said till after. Oh, that's a shame. I wonder if they saw it could have changed it if they told you before. I don't know. Whatever that is, whatever the thing was. But I'm sorry to hear that. Kevin's wrote, what is the 1, 2, and 3? So when people ask me a good question, I put them in a class. It's just for fun, but I say, oh, go to number 1 in the class if it's a really, really good question that I've not had before. Go to number 2 in the class if it's a really good question that I've not had before, but not as good as the first one. So in other words, it's like, yeah, it's a really good question, but not, oh wow, great question. And go number 3 in the class is if I think that it's a good question, a little bit of thought went into it, but not 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 a very basic question, but a half decent question. So that's it, really. JT's right. I've a full-grown German Shepherd and 3 fat cats. I'm good on companions for now. Wow, 3 full-grown German Shepherd and 3 fat cats. Um, one day you're going to have 1 fat German Shepherd and no cats. Sorry, Kevin's right on that. Yeah, only got 1 and 3. Ah. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to shoot because my battery's dying. The dogs are eating the cats, I think, probably. And I'll let you guys go. I'll try and do a live in the morning on the other backup channel to see whether or not we can break this 30 mark. If we do, which we know we're limited, but anyway, yeah. So I'll let everyone go. Thank you, moderators, and thank you for everyone that's joined, and I hope you had a great time. Do remember, if you're interested, really important before you go, really, really, really important, if you're interested in finding out who Lucifer was with evidence, go to my Patreon page. It's free of charge. Just you will have to sign up, but it's free. Just stick your name and email address, job done. And then I won't send you solicited emails or anything like that. I'm not that type of person. But you have to sign up, but then type in Lucifer and it will say Lucifer solved free. Watch that. You'll know who Lucifer was with evidence. None of this, oh, Lucifer's a fallen angel and all this crap that they come out with. Lucifer was good looking. Lucifer knew Satan. Lucifer was Jesus. Absolute bullcrap. You'll get the evidence. So just go to my Patreon page, Patreon, patreon.com, type in Our True History. Once you've registered, then type in on the search bar, or there's a search bar there, just type in Lucifer and then sit back. There's a whole free section as well you can watch Great Flood, proof that the Great Flood happened and all that kind of stuff, and how it happened and why it happened. All their documentaries. So, but the Lucifer's only there till Monday. I've only put it free of charge. There's loads of other ones, or you could just subscribe for £2 for a month and watch absolutely everything, including audiobooks that I've done. So good value if you're interested in that kind of thing. Cotswolds wrote, thank you, as always. No, thank you guys. It's without you, I'd be sitting here talking to myself. JT James has wrote, oh, it's not James, it's Jams. See? What a numpty I am. I've probably always called you James, haven't I? It's Jams. I've just seen, I just actually read it. JT Jams. Oh man, you must think I'm a right plonker. Rodney. Sorry, JT Jams. Wow. I will try and remember that by looking at your name next time properly. JT Jams has wrote cheers, and Darwin's wrote roughly what time tomorrow. Oh, Darwin, we can't do that in front of the children. What time tomorrow? I don't know. If I'm lucky, I can lie until about 9:30, 10. But I don't know. Sometimes I'm up the dogs will probably get me up way before. So I can't say, but in the morning is all I can say. I don't want to commit a time because then I have to get up and I'll be stressing all night. Must make sure that time's. So yeah, sometime in the morning. Sorry, but hopefully you've already subscribed to the or followed the backup channel to get notified. Cotswolds wrote, do it, very good. I can't remember what I was just talking about now. I'm tired now. Forgive me, I can't remember what that was for. Right. Cotswolds is referring to my Patreon page, saying you should go there. It's very good. And Cotswolds wrote, pay the £2 on Patreon, learnt so much, or paid the money on Patreon, learnt so much. Oh, thank you, Cotswolds, and more's coming, as you know. Every week there's something coming. Darwin's wrote, sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot. No worries at all, Darwin. Yeah, no worries. So I will. Yeah, hopefully TikTok will notify people on the other backup account. All right, so I will let everyone go. Thank you, guys. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, Kerry. And I'll see you again all very, very soon. Bye, everyone. Bye.